Welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time and talk about them. My name is Ben Errington, and today I'm joined by regular co-host Mr.
Andy Conduit Tanner. Hello, Ben. Hello, everybody. How you all doing?
Hello, everybody out there. Plus, today we're joined by a very special returning guest, Terrelle Graham, a film, video game, and music connoisseur, a horror enthusiast, critic, plus host of the Escapism and Horror Mania podcasts. Welcome back to the show, Terrelle. Hello.
Hey, hello, and thank you guys for having me back. Looking forward to having our discussion today.
Oh yes, man.
Yeah,
You
picked
are
a good
you are
one for it.
most welcome. You've not been on the show since the Evil Dead Rise episode,
Yeah,
which
feels like
was
a long while ago, but yeah, that was such an enjoyable chat. Felt like we wasn't that like 3 hours long? I think we really
I
delved
think
into
it
it.
may have been 3 hours long. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it had.
Glad you did it. I wasn't there for that one, so Terrell, it's very nice to meet you properly. But
yeah, nice to meet you properly. Yeah,
you kept me company. I was driving to a friend's stag do when the episode came out that week. Having been in London for work, so I was really, really tired, and the sat nav took me down a horrible route. So I was driving down some like dark lanes in the middle of Wales where there were literally only sheep and nothing. With you talking about the Evil Dead to me, so it was a great source of comfort.
it's quite a fitting environment that you're in at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, man.
Match the film.
Ha Terrell, how has your opinion on that film evolved over like the
It's
number? I want to say year. I think was it a year ago? Was
it
it that
is
long
only
ago?
been a year, which is crazy. It seems like it's been a
Yeah.
long, long time. It's interesting because I've seen it a lot, like more than I would usually watch a film, especially in a space of like a year. I think I've seen it like five or six times now. I think I watched
Wow.
it
Okay.
multiple times at the cinema. I think once on Blu-ray, and then it was on Netflix. And I think just round friends' house and stuff, we just put it on and watch it. And I still really like it, but I still prefer the remake. I
Yeah.
still think that was the superior one.
Mm.
Uh, and yeah, I think it's a great film of what it's attempted to do, but I just don't think it matches up to the. I love the like visceral intensity of that remake
Hmm.
Mm.
compared to what Rise does.
Yeah, and I mean, I know obviously we will be talking about Alien Romulus in full. Do you feel like much of that DNA of Evil Dead transferred over to Alien Romulus? Could you have watched this film without knowing it was directed by Fede Alvarez and maybe identified some of his style?
I think I could have to a degree, but I do feel like when I heard that he was directing Alien, I thought, oh my God, like he could bring that to Alien and that could work. I don't think
Yeah.
all of that was there, but I think the
Mm.
intensity was there, but the violence wasn't. Like it's still quite violent, but I just don't think it didn't. Yeah, that same level of like shock and like pure shock and horror of violence and
Yeah,
graphic violence. I don't think that came across with it to the degree that it could have.
I agree
Maybe
with
an
you with that one. I
18
feel there was
certificate.
a
Sorry, Andy.
long
Go on.
shadow of a corporate overlord maybe sitting on top of
I
this one
think,
today.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I thought was like that thing it could have been is that Disney just looking over it like we can't go that far.
If
yeah.
we learned
And
anything
also,
from the Alien movies, it's that the company's bad business.
oh, got to do what's best for the company, haven't we? Yeah, yeah, of course we have. Yeah, I kind of agree. I feel like if it was an 18 certificate and Fede Alvarez was given complete freedom, like we would have seen something different
Oh, was it
because,
15?
Yeah, it's a 15.
yeah, it
Oh,
was
I
a
didn't even know
15.
that.
Yeah,
Oh,
so my 15-year-old sister came to watch it with us, and it was the first like horror movie she'd seen like in the cinema. And I remember, yeah, we had this conversation a while ago where I was like saying, "It's Fede Alvarez. I've got a feeling it might be an 18 when it comes out." Um,
Have
and
to sit on
yeah.
one of your friend's shoulders in a big jacket to get in, or talk about how stressed you are at work. Didn't have
I
to. Perfectly legal.
I feel like yeah, you're right. There may have been. It was almost like they're saying, right, we want to film this homage to Aliens, but because we're kind of like ending a trilogy, and it's not really a trilogy, but a trilogy of prequel movies, we also still need to pay our dues to things like Prometheus. Now, it may not have been that. Fede Alvarez might have said, I want to include Prometheus
Yeah.
stuff,
Before we say anything
but
else, it's a brand new film. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. If you're gonna watch it and you care about
well,
spoilers, go
yeah.
watch it first. We're about
I
to get
like to
into
think
it.
I like to think if you listen to this podcast and you've seen the title of it, you're not expecting no
But
spoilers.
if you're brand new, this is your first episode, you're really on the Alien Romulus train. Think
Yeah.
these lads won't spoil it in a probably at least 2 hour discussion. We're going to
Yeah.
spoil everything. We're going to tell you spoilers one more time, whose graves they've robbed, whose whose uh whose weird prequels they've stirred back into continuity. It's all happening.
Yeah. Yeah, so Terrelle, after our discussion about Evil Dead Rise, I thought you'd be a great pick for this episode. I saw you hyping up Alien Romulus like months ago, so I was like, yeah, we'll get Terrelle on the show again to talk about it. Obviously, you've been talking about lots and lots of new releases this year on the Horror Mania podcast. Um, would you say you've got a favorite of the year so far? Alien Romulus not included?
Excluding Alien for horror, especially, I think Infested. I think that's the name. Yeah, that
Yeah,
French
Yeah.
spider horror film. I think that
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
big surprise for me because I've always felt with horror. I've never seen is it Arachnophobia? I think that's the
Yeah.
name of it. So I've not actually seen it. I bought it years ago on my Apple TV box. I just still never watched it. But I've always thought that like there's not been enough spider horror films, or I've always wondered like why so many people are scared of spiders. That's like such an easy avenue to make a horror film. And I thought, ironically, that Infested film I thought felt very much like Evil Dead Rise, like the way that it
Mm.
was contained in that one location and like was just escalating and things just got worse and worse and worse. But I thought that was just a really fun film. But what surprised me was I actually did start to somewhat get invested in the characters and like their story and that kind of it was trying to make a statement on like social housing, like kind of. I don't know if it fully like got to the end of what it wanted to do with that side of it, but I appreciated the effort that it made with it. And I thought how they shot the spiders and lit them and the way they tried to obscure them was really smartly done.
Mm. Yeah, I really liked Infested as well. I preferred it to Sting. I think it was, and it's a similar sort of setup, you know. It was in a an apartment block as well, so it felt like that. But yeah, I feel like I know what you're saying. There was definitely like a different thematic thing going on.
Yeah.
The police turning up and making everything worse. You know,
Yeah,
standard stuff like that.
Yeah, it just escalates out of nowhere. I did actually really enjoy Sting as well. That was a weird film because I remember I watched that and I thought, because that was the one I was looking forward to initially, because that was the one I was aware of, like going into this
Yeah,
year. And then Infested kind of came out of nowhere. It's oh, there's another spider film. And I felt there was such a strange tone with Sting, where it was like at times very serious, and at times it felt like a B movie, but like intentionally, and it almost felt like there were conflicting characters. Like the family felt very grounded, but the guy, the exterminator guy, and I think
yeah,
the ant that lives in one of the houses felt very like cartoony. And it's like this
yeah.
is so strange, but like I didn't end up enjoying the experience, but I wouldn't say I didn't enjoy it as much as Infested.
Yeah. I felt like it was trying to like part Amblin family friendly creature feature, but then it would like just show someone with their head hollowed out. So you'd be like,
Yeah, out
well,
of nowhere.
That woman getting like absolutely
Yeah.
brutally murdered by that like baseball sized spider at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the two things that could have been combined with these ones, you know, we've talked about Infested, spider movie from a country not the US or the UK, and the very fact that most of the Sting cast, well, a great portion of them are Australian. Give me an Australian spider movie, you know, that country where loads of horrible spiders live.
It would work, would it? You think, why has no one done
makes
that?
sense.
Australian cinema rarely lets us down, so come on, get on it.
Come on. I don't think I would get bored of spider movies. I think I've always enjoyed them. Like Eight-Legged Freaks, I even loved watching that as a kid. Watching that as a kid. Yeah.
That's my childhood one as well.
Is that
That's
the
the
one?
one that makes
Oh,
you think,
yeah.
oh, why is there not more spider films? This is like
I mean, it's not spiders, it's the opposite. It's flies. And I will be quick to say that it is neither of these ones are good movies, but they are fun. There's one I think is also called Infested or Infestation, which is about a slacker who just wakes up one day when everyone has been like webbed up by these horrible insects that take over the world. It's like a horror comedy, very sort of Evil Dead, slapsticky kind of stuff, but with horrible, horrible bugs. I remember seeing it back when it was on like Sky Movies back in the day, where you could just get in and pick out loads of box sets when Netflix was still dishing out discs, I think. But that's a good laugh. And there's another one that's called Infested. It's been updated. It's now called Invasion of the Killer Bugs, and it's got absolute ballers in it, everybody. So Billy from Gremlins, the Pink Power Ranger, Amy Jo Johnson, Do you need any more cast? I'd advise you that you don't. And it's
Are
about
you watching
flies that go in
exclusive?
you and turn you into like a zombie controlled by flies.
Oh
And
shit!
that, my friends, is truly awful, but an exciting watch nevertheless. Especially, not going to spoil it for you. Seek it out; it's worth finding, if only for the way they eventually defeat the bugs. It's so
Never
good.
heard this. Oh, I've never
Have
heard
to
of
check
this.
that out.
It's
Yeah. I was gonna
so
say, are you
awfully
watching
good.
exclusively films called Infested? You're like, what other
No,
films
that
are out there called
Yeah, like
Infested?
just reminded me of
the-
two other infested based films that I've seen in the past.
So, I mean, if our listeners want to check out Horror Mania podcast, you're kind of doing episodes where you talk about more than one film. So is it kind of like
Yeah, so that's why I try to, because I'm doing the podcast solo. I was like, I want to try and lengthen the episodes out. And
Mm.
sometimes there's that like the odd horror film that comes out where I'm like, I don't have a whole lot to say about
Yeah,
it. So I'm like,
yeah,
I'm trying to pair them up. Um, and then luckily this year, especially this summer, there's been actually a lot. I've really enjoyed it because there's been so many horror films over the past few months where it's like, I wish it was always like this, where like theatrically released ones as well, and ones that
Mhm.
are kind of getting quite a big push behind them from the studios. And it's felt quite consistent. So I've
yeah.
I've already got like a backlog of ones I've seen this summer that I want, like In a Violent Nature, I still need to review. I did do Long Legs recently. Um, and there's a few others. And then obviously there's quite a few more horror films to come for the rest of the year as well. I think is Cuckoo getting released next week over
Yeah,
here?
Yes,
I think it's the
next weekend.
next week. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think because we're at Fright Fest, we still want to do an episode on that. We might do it the first week of September. But yeah, that looks great as well. Like from watching the trailer, I was a bit like, I don't really know what to expect from that at all.
I'm down for
So,
it.
especially as it's like another release from Neon just after Long Legs, which is apparently made the most money for them worldwide, even though they released Parasite, which was like a Best Picture winner at the Academy Awards. So yeah, shows you
Is
that.
that theatrically though? Did Parasite maybe pick it up after when started hitting rewards, and I guess when it was translated to streaming platforms, when people who
Yeah,
wouldn't
possibly.
tolerate a subtitled movie could put dubs on?
True. Yeah, I suppose a lot of people gave it a chance after, maybe, I'm not
Yeah.
sure. 'Cause it
Well,
did
Sam.
become one of Letterboxd's like 1 million watched, I think, or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, I wasn't really aware of Parasite until it wasn't on at a cinema anymore, and it was getting loads of buzz, and I saw it like on a plane, as I'm sure the director intended it to be watched.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I saw that at the
Most
Watershed, I
definitely.
think, actually. I managed to catch that
Oh,
one.
nice.
Oh, you
I
did.
was, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how I was aware of it at the time, but yeah, I did manage to catch that one in the Watershed, and it's weird because I don't really remember much about it. I remember really liking it, but I just don't remember much about it. 'Cause I
Yeah,
think was that just before COVID or just
yeah,
after?
possibly. Maybe like I want to say like just before. I
Yeah,
feel
Yeah,
it
like just
is
before.
Parasite 2019.
Yeah, I think so.
yeah.
Mm. It's strange because it's not the kind of Korean film I usually gravitate towards. I do usually gravitate towards more genre films from Korea.
Yeah.
So like it probably was the buzz that kind of made me want to check that out. But yeah. And of course, gotta love a special occasion going to the Watershed. That's always a pleasure. Uh I've already seen your ranking, Terrelle, of the Alien
Yeah.
franchise. I know that this might change. I know it will. Sometimes you sit on films for a while, you're a bit like, oh, I'm going to change my mind.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I don't want to talk about your ranking. I want to talk about like what is your relationship with the Alien franchise? Is it up there of like one of your favorite science fiction horror franchises? Would you say?
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting because I went back through all of them and watched them in the past week leading up to Romulus.
Oh, you
And
did.
yeah, and it made me remember like more. I came out at the end of that thinking, oh, I actually do really like love this franchise, like more than I thought I did, or like realized how much this franchise kind of meant to me in terms of like from growing up, like and just I could like kind of recollect different moments in time when I saw different ones, and
Mm.
bizarrely enough, I'm pretty sure, and this is a very weird entry point, but I'm pretty sure AVP might have been my first, which is strange. But I remember when that came out, and my dad just telling me about it, and then telling me
Yeah.
about Alien and Predator, and then watching it and thinking this is really cool. And then I
Yeah.
branched off and started watching. It was either that or I saw Predator. I remember seeing Predator 2 very, very early on, when I was really young. I just remember
Yeah.
like some of the graphic stuff with the gangs and stuff like that in that film that like it
Yeah.
just stuck with me as one of those things when you're a kid and you watch, you're like, I'm too young to be watching this, but I'm loving it.
Predator 2 is great though. It's
Yeah,
underrated, I would
like,
say.
and then when it comes to Alien, I've always been a Alien over Alien. I love them both, but I've always preferred the original Alien over
Mm.
Aliens. But I think that's just because that's the more like straight up horror film,
Hmm.
which I think
Yeah.
just matches how I just love horror. Whereas the second film's still amazing and it's still horror, but it's got
But it's
that
an action movie,
element
right?
to it. Yeah, so I think that's why I just the slow pace of the original one and like how you get integrated into that ship and the people on the ship and then how that starts to go wrong. I think that just works better for me.
I I watched it like 2 nights ago, and it's been a few years since I watched it, maybe like 4 or 5 years. I was like, it's really wet on this ship. It's like, why, why is it so wet? There's like, it's literally raining on that ship. I mean, I get it. There's obviously some sort of, system with all the water in, and there's a leak. I don't know, but it's like so wet. Everything's just like everything's always soaking wet. I guess it's kind of a bit like that in
You ever like
Aliens as well.
got caught in the rain, Ben, then you wear wet clothes in your car, and then your car's like steamy forever for like weeks.
It's like a
Ah,
swamp. It's like there's like a weird room with like loads of chains hanging down, like Hellraiser style. Again, I know it's like what's quite good about it is like it's not like scientists on board, is it? It's kind of like a vessel. What is it, like an engineering vessel or
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
but
they're like
literally
miners, aren't they?
the first dialogue spoken is about like workers' rights and contracts and stuff.
Yeah.
Like like
It's got
establishing Wayland Yutani is just like a
Yeah.
HR nightmare
I'm
essentially.
glad they get bought out by Walmart ultimately, and that's canon.
Is that
It's an alien resurrection. They say, "Oh, what happened to the
Oh my God,
cloned
really?
Ripley?" He goes, "Buddy, what's the company up to now?" And they go, "Oh, they got bought out by Walmart." So serves them
Jesus.
right.
just
Take that.
and that's like
Um,
200 years like beyond the future of like Alien as well. It's like Walmart still exists.
Yeah, Walmart still exists, and now if they want they want to clone those xenomorphs so they can be in like as the Smart Price adverts. They like tap in their little pockets, making sure the change is still in there.
it's the perfect organism. Walmart. That's what it is. It's not. They're not talking about the alien. They're talking about Walmart. It's gonna last
You buy
forever.
anything there.
Yeah.
If the xenomorphs are after you, you'd find something to deal with it in Walmart.
Oh
Big
yeah.
vat of that black goo if you needed it.
So, are you- sorry, are you also? So you are a fan of Prometheus,
Yeah.
and so you're a fan of the new movies as well. Like,
Yeah.
is there a low point? Would you say? Would you say that's Alien versus Predator, despite the fact that they were the first ones you saw?
The second one is the low point for me.
Yeah.
But then it's weird because when I watched that the other day, I was trying to really like focus because I hadn't seen that since it came out when I was really young. And I was trying to focus in. I was like, is this like a good? Because all I remember is it's so dark. That's all I remember
Mm.
about the film. It's so dark, could barely see a thing. And I wanted to watch it this time and be like, is there something good underneath this that is
Yeah.
just hampered by the darkness? And I don't think there really is.
No.
AVP
And it
isn't.
doesn't.
AVP is the experience where when you start a new game and it's like set the brightness so you can only just see
Yeah.
this logo. This is what happens if you answer that question honestly, rather than going, I'll just nudge that up a few more.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's only like excuse me, there's only like one moment in that film which I think is like good, and it's like a 30-second scene, and the rest I think is just throw it away. But it's the one scene where there's this pregnant woman and her whole stomach bursts to like multiple chest bursters.
Oh
And it's like,
wow.
oh, I don't remember that happening. And then the rest of it is like, oh, you could just kind of throw
It
it
doesn't
away.
really it doesn't really make sense like in terms of canon though, does it? Because if we're supposed to believe that David was responsible for the creation of the xenomorph alongside the engineers, they were like predators and aliens been fighting for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Here they are on top here they are on top of a pyramid.
Then
Been
again,
on
though,
Earth
in
already,
Prometheus,
humanity already knows, has already come into contact with this. We know about it already.
Yeah.
Prometheus, there was a big mural of an alien queen up there as well. So they need
Oh yeah, that is true because that kind of
Yeah.
throws it up into the air. It's like, oh, so David didn't? Did he? Did he create the first? He didn't. It's
solve
like,
it all, mix it up. Next time you have another go at Terminator 3, just put a xenomorph in it, kick it into
Yeah.
a time machine at the end. Everything else will work itself out.
Yeah. I think I just enjoy the idea of a xenomorph being an alien that's discovered. We don't know where it came from, like what the origins of it are. It's the perfect organism. It's evolved to this. It can survive in any sort of atmosphere or anything like that. I like that. That's scary. kind of
Yeah, I
It's a
going.
think that.
perfect organism, Ben, but I think it's all about setting the parameters of the challenge. It's about delight this baby. Xenomorph dog shit at that. Wouldn't be able to do anything.
Oh my God.
Do this Rubik's Cube. I ain't seen one do it.
No, I might be all right at Rubik's Cube actually. Yeah, throw me off big time now. I guess the other things we will mention, it during in and around the review is things like Alien Isolation and Dead Space as well, because both of those things seem to have quite a significant impact on this film. The way it looks. Apparently, Fede Álvarez is a fan of Alien Isolation. I don't know if he mentioned anything about Dead Space, but I feel like there's a lot of Dead Space vibes. Of course, chicken and egg scenario. Dead Space exists because Aliens exists. Now Alien Romulus exists in a way, kind of a bit because of Dead Space. The Zero G scene, for example, other things like that. I feel like the DNA of that game is very much here. But yeah, you're both Dead Space fans as well,
Yeah,
right?
big Dead Space fan.
Yeah, I think that that was just something that like I saw a tweet at the beginning of last week that mentioned Dead Space and Alien, and for some reason it never crossed my mind like the two could potentially like kind of complement each other in a film. And
Mm.
and then I had it in my head, I was like, what does that even mean? Because I was like, to me, that can mean multiple different things for like Dead Space. And then I had it in my head of, oh, like, is there going to be some sort of like necromorph type of transformation or something like that? But then what I was surprised by when I watched the film was, aside from like, even if you ignore the final act, where I think a lot of that Dead Space stuff is, the whole film kind of has it running through. Like, even just from the setup of it, which Dead Space is kind of influenced by like The Thing, Alien, and Event Horizon. So like
Mhm.
you kind of got to credit those things for the setup as well. But the big scene in the middle of the film that reminded me of it is when the ship crashes. And
Yeah.
because that happens in Dead Space where you expect to be rescued and the ship comes into the hangar and it crashes in front of you. And excuse me, choking, got a
Yeah.
cold. But yeah, the ship crashes into the hangar and I think someone comes out on fire and they like die. And you're like, oh, like our escape is just destroyed.
Yeah.
And when that happened in Alien, I was like, oh my God, this is
Yeah.
like Dead Space. And I felt like I saw in the tweet before the film came out that someone said they'd be shocked if Fede Alvarez isn't aware of Dead Space or isn't a fan of it. And I feel like
Yeah.
he has to be to some degree because the similarities are so
Yeah.
there. But I love it. I love it for
It's a
that. Like,
it's a real divergence there of those two different franchises. And obviously, as you say, Ben, they're influenced by one another. Sort of thematically, if you think about it, like undercutting the whole thing with the whole Alien franchise is capitalism and corporations and their influence on how humanity develops into space and so ever. Whereas Dead Space kind of diverges in that one where religion and the search for faith and meaning is what drives people into look at this and has that undercurrent that kind of brings the whole necromorph thing into a focus. And it's one, I know we're not doing a video game episode. We should really probably do a Dead Space one. I feel like we're on borrowed time before a film of that does exist. I think the creative team behind it will dictate how successful that is, but it's something I would certainly turn up to watch. And now you got me thinking in a world where we cannot think of IP without thinking how they would fight if we mashed those action figures together. I'd love to see Xenomorphs versus Necromorphs
Necromorph, that would be incredible. That'd be
because
like
they're
one of
already
those
dead.
where it's
Really difficult.
We're already
like
dead.
if
Bloody
you
hell.
thought back in 2008 when Dead Space come out, it wouldn't have even been a thought in your head of being a possibility, and now it kind of like, oh, could happen.
Because we
Yeah,
know
bloody hell, space is horrible.
we've heard
Stay out of it.
John Carpenter likes it. He wants to make it, for example, but he's not made a film in a while. But still, yeah, I think it's got to a point where I used to play Dead Space and you'd be like, this reminds me so much of Alien. But now, in loads of these establishing shots of the ship and stuff, even though, yeah, it does look like Alien Isolation, I don't know, like atmosphere wise, I was constantly thinking about Dead Space. There's something going to come crawling out of a vent, then you kill that, and then there's something comes behind you out of a vent as well. That
Yeah,
horrible, that horrible gameplay
King.
pattern, whatever that is. God, horrific. Um, Okay, so I mean, there's lots to discuss. We've got a tiny bit of horror news, so I'll mention that very quickly first. The first thing I wanted to mention is Alien TV show. There's apparently been a teaser that's been playing in front of Alien Romulus in some theaters in the US. I don't know if you saw this tiny little clip. It was going around on Twitter.
I
I
did
think,
see like a little screen. Someone recorded it, I think, in a cinema
yeah,
screen.
yeah, not the best way to watch it, but still. So I think it's called Alien Earth, and I guess we're gonna get xenomorphs on Earth, and I think it's coming out possibly next year as well.
Yeah.
Now,
The strange thing about that show is because I know the AVP films are technically not canon,
mm.
but this show is apparently, and it's set before Prometheus. So this is the one where it's like, wait, so before
Oh.
all of this, aliens were on Earth. So
I've just created David. I've just created this perfect organism. We've already got
yeah,
one at home. We've already got one.
we've already seen it. So
Oh,
I don't
Maybe
know
that's how
what
it
the
gets in the
direction is with
mural.
that. Yeah, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe he's like, right, there's a mural there. I'm gonna backwards create the story that leads to that.
And that, so
Yeah,
they'll do the whole story of Alien Earth. Someone will make a mural, and they'll at the very end, the company or whoever will come in and go, can't have anyone seeing that mural, fire it into space. Who knows where it'll end up? Well, I'm not. We're gonna just stuck it in space. It's too nice work to give
yeah,
away. But yeah, I'm interested in a nice Alien series.
yeah. I feel like there are lots of franchises that would say, "Oh, we've got a TV show coming out," and I maybe like wouldn't be absolutely interested. But as soon as I realize it's Alien, I'm like, I'm there. I'm absolutely involved,
Need to
100%.
raise a little eyebrow and check some receipts because wasn't there a little controversy that during the writers' strike they were like, we're working with people who aren't unions, so we can proceed.
Oh,
Maybe
really?
that was
Ah,
exaggerated stories, but I need to look at that to see where they need to wag a little finger when it comes out. But mostly I'm interested in some
Wag a little
like
finger and then
say,
press
come
play.
on, don't be
That's what you're
dogs,
gonna
but
do.
I am gonna watch it. It depends whether I, buy any products from their advertisers or not. I might be like, no, not buying any action figures. Sorry, lads.
Don't pirate it, whatever you do. Um, Following on as well, a piece of news following on from our discussion about Halloween video game last week, pretty much the day after we were talking about this, Andy, Retro Realms have announced that they're releasing a Halloween and an Ash versus Evil Dead 16-bit side scroller game, and apparently there's like crossover as well. Apparently, if you've
Yeah,
got
if you
both the
get both
games,
versions, you can play Pokemon Red and Blue style.
this is
Get
like
some extra stuff.
Sonic and
didn't
Knuckles
know that.
putting Sonic 3 on top of Sonic and Knuckles all over again,
What's that?
playing
It's
with
almost as if
Tails.
they heard my lamentations, Ben. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, not another asymmetrical multiplayer. Um, and they've said, right, this will shut him up.
They've
Great.
definitely done that, Andy. 100%. Yeah, but looking forward to it. This is probably the best news it could have been. I think I was kind of hoping for I kind of want a single player game, and if I can't have that, a single player like standard game, I guess. If I can't story game, if I can't have that, then side scrolling 16-bit is just as good for me. I'm all over that.
I
Playing
saw the trailer
like,
for the side-scrolling one, and I thought it's not what I expected, but this looks just really cool and really fun, and especially to play around Halloween. Like it just looks different. Like
yeah, man,
I've
definitely.
I wouldn't have expected nor even really wished for that, but now that I
Mm,
see it, I'm like, oh, I want that.
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. I
Feels like
think
a
I'm the
nice little
same.
handheld purchase as well for like a 16 little bit. I might pick that up on the Switch or something
It
like that
will
for a little
be.
go when you're out and about.
Absolutely, man. Um, the only other piece of horror news I really want to talk about is it's Fright Fest week. If you're listening to this, of the week of Fright Fest, it starts on Thursday all the way through to Monday. In Leicester Square, Odeon, lots of premieres, lots of world premieres, UK premieres. Me and Andy are going to be there again on the ground, boots on the ground, interviewing people before, after screenings, catching up with friends, as many former guests of the podcast as possible, getting live hot takes of films that are being shown at Fright Fest. Well, we've also purchased t-shirts, Andy, right?
Yeah, got new t-shirts.
Obviously, you can't wear them every day because people
Got
might
her every
think,
day.
come on,
Turn them
lads,
inside out on day two.
turn them
I
inside out
told you
data.
that our accommodation has washing facilities, Ben. So if the good Lord gives us some sunshine to dry
I only
our
need to
laundry,
I need to bring one pair of pants as well then, if that's the case.
exactly. Just sleep naked while your stuff dries, you'll be fine.
Sounds perfect. Yeah, if you're familiar with our branding, bright pink, bright green, classic horror colors. Obviously, we've got a pink t-shirt, we've got a green t-shirt. So if you see two idiots, yeah, two
You
idiots.
see two idiots wearing those t-shirts. Say, "Oh, what have you stolen Andy and Ben's t-shirts for? Give them back."
Come and approach us. We'll talk horror. We're recording the episode live. So let's do it again. It was the
Yeah.
best time last year. A lot of unexpected. It was pure carnage at one point. We were in like the middle of after the premiere of Werewolf Santa. We were in the mid. It was carnage. It was like we were war correspondent reporters
It
in
was.
Cineworld. We were literally ducking, diving, just like talking
And
to.
like Errol was absolutely like delirious with having like a sold out screening, and it was a late run, and like we ran into like Emily from the movie as well, and it was so much. And they had people that were there promoting, like giving out Christmas sweets in the height of summer.
Yeah,
It
man.
was it was
So
such a good laugh.
we're obviously we're going to be seeing everything in the main screen. We've booked our Discovery screen tickets as well. Some highlights we're going to see. We're going to see a 4K restoration of Jake West's Razor Blade Smile. Very late on a Sunday. He's going to be there as well, so I'm sure we're going to grab him and chat to him all about that. There's a 4K restoration of The Hitcher that's being shown as well. Is Nightmare on Elm Street the 4K restoration of that as well, Andy?
I think so. And haven't both Nightmare on Elm Street and The Hitch have been downgraded? They used to be very scary 18s, but now desensitized to it. Just 15s now.
Oh,
Alien,
right, okay.
Romulus
I see.
style.
I see what you're doing. And as we're right there in Leicester Square, you know what? There's an IMAX screen there, Andy. I am very tempted to go and squeeze in another viewing of Alien Romulus as well.
You're a madman. We're seeing so many films.
Well, you say that, I might be like, I'm done. I'm all
Yeah,
done.
it's boring. I'm gonna have a rest from all seeing these films by going to watch a different
I'm
film.
gonna go and watch a film I'm very, very familiar with. Comforting, the comfort of a face hugger. It's worth seeing it in IMAX, right, Terrelle?
Oh, definitely. Like it actually shocked me when I watched it because I just watched it because I love watching films in IMAX, and I thought this is going to be a good experience, and IMAX is going to heighten it. But what shocked me is some of the space sequences in Romulus, which I didn't even realize they were going to do, especially towards the end of the film. It reminded me of Gravity and Interstellar, and
Mhm.
I was like, I didn't know I was getting this
Oh,
out of
yeah,
an Alien
okay.
film, and that in IMAX, I was like, this is actually perfect for it. And I think
Mm,
that format in particular, I think, is actually really geared towards space just because of the nature of the bigger frame. And I think it
mm.
just dwarfs everything you see within the center of the frame and just makes it look space itself look bigger. And I think it is really effective in that way.
Yeah, can confirm Romulus in IMAX was incredible. It was really, really good. It has the sound as well, particularly in some of the louder moments when
You
there's like
IMAXed it
huge
as
things going
well.
on. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's confirmed then.
Feeling left out now.
If you've both IMAXed it and I haven't, then there we go, Andy.
yeah. Perth Playhouse, lovely IMAX screen. Sat down
To be,
and enjoyed it there. I think
oh, wow.
it's got to be up there with some of the best things I've seen on IMAX. The only thing in recent memory I think that could compete with it would be Godzilla minus one because that was phenomenal in IMAX. But this was a close second.
Perth has got a IMAX screen,
Yeah.
but Bristol hasn't.
It's
What can I
annoying because
say, Ben?
Bristol does have an IMAX screen, they just don't use it, which is strange.
Yes,
It's just
yes,
in an
they
That
do.
aquarium.
Bristol one.
It's just in
Yeah,
an aquarium, exactly.
yeah.
Have,
It's
have,
just
have you have you been to Forbidden Worlds Film
I
Festival?
haven't
Terrell?
yet. No. I missed when their most recent one. I think they showed Texas Chainsaw Massacre on there, and I found
Yeah,
out about it the day after. I was like, oh no! I
yeah.
was like, that would have been
Oh
perfect.
man, I'll next time I see it go live, I'll drop you a message because
Yeah,
it's
thanks. I
good
appreciate
times.
it.
I watched some good ones. Last year we watched Christine on the IMAX
Ah,
screen. What else? Mimic. Guillermo del Toro's Mimic. That was good fun. A couple of films I'd never seen before as well. So, well, not those two, but another couple of films as well. So, highly recommend it. Okay, I mean that is it. I've got for horror news. What we've been watching. I've kind of only really done a little mini catch up on Alien. Terrell, you said you've watched them all. You watched every single
yeah.
one.
So like, yeah, in the past week, that's been my main focus. Is just all the Alien films. I went in a really weird order as well, which now looking back, actually, is almost it started in the sequence of how I was introduced. So I did start with AVP. And then I watched AVP 2, which I think at the time I had seen a majority of the films before AVP 2 had came out, so I was more in tune with them by the time when they originally came out. And then I went through into the first Alien, second. I'm trying to think now. So yeah, I actually did it in a really weird sequence because I did AVP 1, AVP 2, Alien, Aliens, then Prometheus. That actually no, I'm telling a lie. I did start with Prometheus after AVP. Gets so confusing.
Yeah.
So you've gone in like calendar order.
Calendar order, yeah.
Covenant, and then I went into Alien, Aliens, and then I did Resurrection, and then I did 3. So I kind of did it out of sequence then, because Resurrection is the one I couldn't remember at all. Really, I knew I had seen it, but that's the one like I hadn't seen for the longest time, I think. So I really didn't have much memory of it. So I was curious to do that.
I don't hate Resurrection.
No, I quite like Resurrection.
I've
probably seen it more times than 3.
You know that basketball shot? That basketball shot?
Yeah,
for real.
Yeah, did it for real.
There is like a weird. I don't know if it's like a. I don't know if it's like a 90s thing or whatever. It's just a certain aspect of that film that kind of a weird charm to it, where it's like,
yeah,
I think it's bad, but it's watchable. Like
it gets a bad rap, but the cast is incredible.
Yeah,
it's
underwater aliens.
Like it's a pre-Matrix film, but you've got that black guy with the guns like attached to his hands.
Yeah. CSI Warwick Brown.
And like pointing them and it's like, this is strange. But then it's also that type of thing where it suits an alien film in a way when you have like larger than life, especially like marine style or mercenary characters like that, because you're like, oh, I can't wait for them to go up against an alien and die.
Yeah, because you need like a Ron Perlman who's like bit of a misogynist. Gives the main character a load of jit, but then later in the film gets a heroic moment or something. You know, stuff like that.
Gold, big old
stuff
sod.
like that
nice
doesn't really exist. Doesn't really exist in modern films, but in films with like ensemble casts like that, you kind of get it. Brad Dourif as well. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, he's in it. Yeah,
he's
one of the guys in the lab who's like doing all the.
Oh yeah, he's got a bit of a thing for a xenomorph, isn't he? He's I think he's a little bit. Oh,
he's the little chap who said, "Look at your lovely baby" at the end.
So I only watched Alien and then Alien Covenant just because I wanted a little refresh on both ends of the spectrum, I guess. With that, I've got a little problem with Alien Covenant that I will mention now. And as you saw it very briefly,
he hates James Franco. That's what he hates about it.
That's right. He burns alive. It's fine. He burns alive. Obviously, spoilers for Alien Covenant for anyone who's listening. Is David he's a
guy who lives next door. Go and live in his house if you want.
He's an android, and he's like master manipulator. He is like a chameleon. Why does he allow a mere, like right at the end when he puts not Ripley but new Ripley in the cryo sleep to go to sleep, and she says, "Oh, we're gonna build a little cabin together," and he goes, "Sorry, what?" But he just makes a face, doesn't he? He just goes like, "Sorry," and then she works out that that's David when you think it's Walter because he swapped. I kind of hate that as a reveal because I'm like, he's an android, he's a master manipulator. If you were there pretending to be someone, even if you're a human being, even if it was me pretending to be someone, and someone went, "Will you build that cabin with me?" Just like we spoke, you go, "Yeah, all right, yeah, of course I will. See you later, night."
Maybe he's like you know how like serial killers are like they revel in the reaction. Maybe he just wanted to because he knows at that point she can't react. She's gonna go to sleep. She's powerless. Maybe he just wanted to see that look on her face when she realizes.
if that was the intention, I can forgive it. However, it kind of annoys me in that moment because I think it would have been just as nice for him to just put her to sleep. She didn't know any different. She was all going off to sleep, and then he goes and regurgitates those Kinder eggs and puts them in the drawer, wherever he does.
And just last scene him just laughing like
yeah, or maybe he does. We don't need to reveal that it's David. He then goes and starts dyeing his hair, and we're like, "Oh yeah, David used to do that. Oh no, it's David all along." I don't know. I kind of feel like.
Oh, sorry. Do you remember when you watched it for the first time? If you knew, because I feel like, from what I remember, I feel like it was quite obvious.
Yeah, because he goes to grab a rock, doesn't he? And
yeah, and it just cuts,
and then he looks back as well. He looks back,
and whenever
it
does that, you're like, oh, I think I know what is. And then there's that scene when they're on the. I don't know if it's like one of those things where when you're watching a film and you already know, you're telling yourself, "Well, yeah, I already knew that." But like, there's that
Hmm.
first scene where she's inspecting him on the ship afterwards, and I can't remember what the
Yeah.
dialogue is, but there's like a look that she gives at him, and it is such a obvious. Oh, she's trying to work out, but it's almost so obvious that it's making. It almost telegraphs it to the audience. Oh, it's
Yeah.
not going to be him because now we're focusing on is it him or isn't it
Yeah.
not him? And it's like it's just a bit too telegraphed. I think.
It's too heavy-handed, isn't it? It's just almost like, yeah, but now that's all we're thinking about. We're not enjoying the final act of the film.
Yeah,
We're just thinking, yeah, it kind of
He played a
is a
few
bit.
tricks, just like every time she'd walked into a room, gone, David, see if he turned round. Got him.
Got him. David, can you play the flute or what? Yes, I can actually.
Ah,
You do the
busted.
fingering, is what he says.
yeah,
I kind of still quite like it. I kind of like the neomorph, the like
yeah.
white xenomorph. Very creepy. Um when the xenomorph bursts out of the captain, the new captain dude as well. Just a tiny little miniature xenomorph that stands up straight. Very weird. I kind of like that sort of uncanny weird stuff. Um Also, one more question on that. Again, spoilers for Covenant. When David turns up with the Prometheus ship and drops all the canisters of all the black goo and it kills everyone, I'm like,
Just fucks up all the space
but
Jesuses.
I'm just like, that's just one city, right? That's just one place. This is a planet.
I took it that he got them all.
Are we supposed to think he's got all of them? He's killed them all? Is that
They
what we're
just have a
supposed to think?
really centrally located population. It was
Just
like
one spot.
it was like Christmas, and
where
they're
we
all
all
the
live.
Who's, so they're all singing around their Christmas tree. He just rocks up like the Grinch on his big sleigh full of presents,
Well,
except he's got black goo, and he goes, "Eat it,
luckily,
lads."
luckily, both of you have given me good explanation for the two big problems I had. So thanks for
Bought a
that.
5-star movie now.
Numi, what's her name? Elizabeth Shaw got done dirty, didn't she? Done dirty.
Yeah, that it's weird because in hindsight, like that, I remember watching it for the first time and it's like that actually, it saddened me, but in a way of like for the character, because I think I really connected with that character in
Yeah.
Prometheus. And then when she's revealed on that table, it was like, oh my God, it was almost like a gut punch. It's like, oh, like that
Yeah.
happened. Like, all this kind of optimism that she left that planet with, and she was still fighting, all that kind of
Oh, yeah.
will that she'd shown in Prometheus to survive and to go out there with him. And it's like, oh my God, like that to me, that was like real horror. Like,
He also says that she put him back together. So because he was just ahead, wouldn't he?
yeah.
Second she finished.
Second, yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Here you are, mate. You're good as new, and he's gone. Have it.
Shut.
There are
Just
there are some
gotta-
there are some proper horrible bits in that really get me. Like, and it's not even Xenomorph focused. When he like jabs Walter and like deactivates him, and he like his eyes go white, and he like goes, ah, that's
Quite
horrible.
scary. Like it's just it's so unexpected, isn't it? It's like just it's the
Yeah.
imagery of it. It's just like, whoa.
And he's like, you thought you'd finished me, but I've got the reset button. Don't you worry about it. Yeah, I mean it was just those two that I've really watched. Anything else you wanted to mention, Andy? Have you seen anything?
I'll tell you what, I've all been all Fright Fest prep all the time this last week, but there is one little video I watched that I can send you on the direction of. Friend of the show, former guest, Stu, over on StuTube. He has a new video out this
yes,
last
he
few
does.
days. The 12 vampire movies that you may not have seen that he would recommend. Some good recommendations in there, including one that I was chatting to him about. So check that out. We'll not spoil it for you because it's only 15 minutes of your life. Get some vampire movie recommendations up here.
Absolutely, man. Well, just from looking at I'm not going to ruin it. It's not what the thumbnail is it?
I don't know
Remember
what the thumbnail is.
Stephen King adaptation? Stephen King adaptation?
Nah.
Oh. The
Stu-
thumbnail is Night Flyer, which is good. Don't know if you've seen that, Terrelle.
No, I've not actually heard of that one. No.
Very good, weird vampire design.
Yeah.
A
Horrible
vampire.
That's one I'm
fingers.
going to want to watch now. I think I'm going to try and find it and watch it without even seeing the design before.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
A vampire that has a plane. A vampire that has a pilot's license. Somehow,
No, interesting.
obviously.
Oh, now I
Blacked
get the
out
name
windows.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the film I recommended Stu check out when I watched his video back gave me a little fact about that I didn't know. Based on a real story. not vampires in it. Obviously, they've put vampires in it, but it's a real thing that happened once upon a time.
Is it Blade?
So
That happened.
I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to confirm
definitely
or
happened.
deny what it is. You have to go and watch our friend's video to find out.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
also not Dracula Dead and
Let's-
Loving It, the
let's
best
put the link.
vampire movie.
Let's put the link in the show notes so everybody can go and find that. Okay. Apart from, of course, we've also seen this week, film of the week, Alien Romulus. Did it ever have a different title at any point? Was it called like Untitled Alien Film or something like that?
Probably that to begin with, I imagine, but I don't think it had another proper title with it.
This kind of got me thinking because obviously that ship is in two halves, Romulus and what's the other one called?
Remus.
Remus.
Yeah.
It was kind of until obviously certain things happened to that ship. I was kind of thinking, oh, one film Romulus, another film Remus. That could be interesting.
I feel like it's a what's it called? A Star Wars new sequels thing as well, where there's going to be spin-off comics. Isn't there a Romulus 1 or something that's coming out in comics that's going to be the story of a xenomorph on that station that we see the aftermath of in the film?
It wouldn't surprise
okay.
me if they did something like that, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're about to get. I don't know if there's also going to be a Remus prequel thing or that comic is set on the one side of the station. It's a station, not a ship, and it shows that there's two halves of it. So technically, I guess Remus is there as well. We just don't name check it.
So the one thing I was confused about, do they ever cross? Because I didn't know if there was a point where they crossed. We never go to Remus in the film, or do they?
Unless it's just the area where they're walking.
Yeah,
They never call it
They go
out.
on that like lift thing that goes down. I didn't know if that was like crossing to like another part of the station, or if it was just in the same section. But
It's never made explicitly clear, but it appears that the station hasn't been halved, so it must be there.
Yeah.
It was kind of weird, isn't it? Okay. So, Alien Romulus is a 2024 American science fiction horror film directed by Fede Álvarez. Is the seventh installment in the Alien franchise, set between the events of Alien 1979 and Aliens 1986. The film stars Cailee Spaeny, how you say her surname, David Jonsson, Archie Renaux, Isabela Merced, Spike Fearn, Aileen Wu. A lot of like mostly unknown actors. I saw that David Jonsson was in that. Is it Rye Lane, like a British film? And
Primarily from stage, though, right? I think that's where they've really encountered him. He does a lot in the West End, I think.
Yeah, and Cailee Spaeny is in Civil War, which I saw this year as well, which I've really enjoyed. Plot-wise, while scavenging the deep ends of a derelict space station, a group of young space colonists come face to face with the most terrifying life form in the universe. 7.5 on IMDb so far. Rotten Tomatoes, 82% audience score, 86% critic score. Letterboxd, 3.7 out of 5. David Chen says, some choice reviews, Alien Romulus brings the Alien franchise back to its roots. Scary creature on spaceship slowly killing everyone on board. 4 stars. Mariana Neal says, I can just feel the people who are getting ready to complain about fan service, but I'm a fan and I was fucking serviced. 4 stars. Well, yeah, that's hard to disagree with that. Sydney says, uncanny CGI recreation of the dead is arguably scarier than any xenomorph. 3 stars. And then Matt Lynch says, the parts that are Alien splatter movie are a real blast. The parts that are Alien Legacy sequel are mostly stupid. 3 stars. So some nice variation in reviews there. I feel like after coming out of this and seeing any sort of response on social media, it's kind of 2 very key moments that are important. And if you enjoyed those moments, you really enjoyed this film. If you didn't, it's maybe hampered your enjoyment of this film a bit. But yeah, Terrelle, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm pretty sure you've said, is this now your second favorite in the franchise?
Yeah, I think it is, which shocked me. Like when I came out of the cinema, it was one of those things. When it ended, I was like, I really love that. And I remember there was a guy, not to jump ahead, but there was a guy behind or next to me who was talking to his friend, and like he was just like, "Oh, they just did Resurrection again."
Oh yeah.
And I was walking down the steps, and I was just thinking about it, and it was one of those because I like to write my notes like as soon as I come out, if I can think of, because usually I have a flurry of thoughts, and I was stood in the lobby for a good little while, just completely focused on my phone, just typing in loads of like paragraphs of notes and getting almost as if I was writing a full-page review of thoughts out about it. And yeah, and then watching it the second time and just being able to just sit back. I always find like that second viewing is nice to kind of confirm your thoughts. Just when you have like the expectation or all of that just wiped away, you know what's coming, and you can just really focus on how it's being executed and how it makes you feel, and if you feel the same way. And I just felt it again. Like as I was watching it the second time, there was no point in that film where when you sometimes watch a film a second time and all right, this is the 10-minute lull where it gets a bit dull and I'm not that interested in this. But I never had that. Even in the beginning where it's a little slower, I was still really focused on the whole thing and really engaged with it all. There is only one point. There's one thing, and it's the major thing that I think is the one flaw of the film, which is that CGI thing. I guess, are we talking about it right now, or are we?
Yeah, let's
we
kick
can,
the lid off this tin of worms here. Come on.
Yeah, so when that scene happened, it's interesting because I think I noticed who it was the moment you see like it face down. I think just the shape
really?
of the head.
I didn't get that for a little while.
Yeah, like in my head, I thought, oh, that looks like maybe it's like the same model of that. And then the moment where she lifts it up and it's like covered by shadow, and you see the side profile, I was like, that definitely looks like Ian Holm because of the nose. I was like, that just looks
Bilbo
like
Baggins.
yeah, and then at that point, I had in my head, I was like, I hope they don't do what I think they might do. I hope they just keep it to the shadow. And then when it revealed his face, I was like, "Oh God, no!" It's like they've gone that far with it.
Because by his very nature, they didn't need to recreate a CGI version of his face. Like, because do you remember when Bishop, is it in Alien 3 when she like brings Bishop back online and
he's a bit rubbery.
Like, he's a bit rubbery, and he's just like, they could have easily done something like that.
I guess the challenge is that obviously Ian Holm has passed away. And I was looking into this, and apparently it was done with, they used a model, a puppet, they used prosthetics, and there was an actor in there who did the performance, and then so it isn't AI isn't entirely generated just from patterns of his voice. There is an actor portraying it, but they used a lot of prosthetics and puppetry to make it look exactly like him. And apparently the other important thing to note here is that they did apparently a very, very rough version because that was the idea they had, and then they spoke to his widow and his family, and they were the first to see it, and they got those choices. But I think I'm with you, Terrelle. I think maybe if it was important for that exact, for that robot and that link to be in there, I maybe would have found a different way to do it. Maybe not have him quite so intensively on the screen so much, because it doesn't look quite right. And I wasn't sure that, like, obviously the important thing is if his family thought that he would be up for it and they were fine with it, then I'm not going to be offended on their behalf. But it was just weird. It was very strange.
One of those things I think that just, and it's a shame because I think a lot of the backlash online for this film in general, whether it's the people saying they hate the film, it's legacy sequel, or it's all of that, I think it all stems from that moment. And I feel like that one moment, if that wasn't in the film, I think people's opinions, like the people that even hate the film or dislike it or think it's copying the first two, I think all that kind of goes away, most of it, in terms of what people think. And I was analyzing it the second time to really figure out what is making this look so bad. And it's the mouth.
Yes,
it looks like a Instagram filter, like those weird, like, when you like on social media, you can like, I don't know, you can take like an image off Google and you can turn it into a filter on you. It looks like one of those things.
It reminded me of. Have you seen it? Sorry, Tara. Have you seen it where like they do that like mouth swap? So it'll be like like someone and their baby, and it'll be like mouth swapped, so you can like talk, and it looks like your baby's talking. It just kind of looked like that.
Yeah, it's that, and the whole mouth looked 2D. Like it looked all in one. There was no like three-dimensional effect to the mouth. It was like you look at it, the lips, the teeth, and inside the mouth. None of it looked 3D. It all looked flat.
And
I think that's what was so jarring is when he's talking, it's like your teeth don't even look like they are 3D. They don't look like real teeth. They look flat. And it's like, that doesn't look real.
I'd have
And
been tempted to maybe have like maybe that bit that we first saw with him slightly in shadow, so you can get the idea of who he's meant to be, and then maybe have him uploaded to Mother the computer or
Yeah, like
something
a
like that, and
I
then just
thought
have,
this
then have a
like a
voice
voice.
because
Yeah,
the voice performance was stunning.
yeah.
I think of
I
the
think
thing.
you could have had a
I did
voice,
hear they
and
used AI though for I saw the Discussing Film Twitter page post, and they
oh,
did use
okay.
some form of AI to alter the voice to
Okay, so
hit
they, so
matches.
an actor performed it, and then maybe they toned him in a certain way to
Yeah,
make
I think
it
they used AI to like tone it to match Ian
okay.
Holm's voice.
So
It
it's
wasn't.
it's it's a strange delivery, but then the thing that bothered me more so than anything else was that he is called Rook, but that's a relation to Bishop, not Ash, which is that
Oh
science
my
officer.
god,
They
yeah.
should have called him
That's what he.
Gary,
That's
the
what he was
opposite of
thinking at.
Ash.
Don't they
Yeah.
always? They usually go by letter, don't they? So it was like Ash, Bishop. What's Winona Ryder's character?
It begins
I
with
can't
C, but
remember
I
the
don't
name.
know it.
Yeah, C, and then David. So they kind of did that. They established that, and then obviously in Covenant they went Walter.
And now back to the start, Andy. Yeah. So I mean that, and then also like with the whole thing with the robot and making him the same character as well. You know what? Especially you identified it, Ben. You called him Bilbo. Cast Elijah Wood to be that robot. The follow up from Bilbo.
Just get him to do that evil face he does when he's like, I want. What does he do when he wants to ring and his eyes go all like scary and
Oh yeah,
black?
the scary. I thought you
That's
were going to say the
horrible.
face he does at the end of Return of the King when they all come in. Worth watching the video for, guys, on that one. That's my best acting.
I just feel like in terms of the film, in terms of the plot, it wasn't necessary. We could have had either another actor playing a new android. We could have had just a voice, just an AI thing that was kind of it. Because the role of Ian Holm as Rook becomes quite significant. It's not like it's not like in a game where you find a dead body or find something and you get like the clue and then you move on to the next part.
An audio
It
log that you
it
skip through.
almost yeah, he almost becomes something of a like antagonist in it, where he's like again working on behalf of Wayland Yutani. And I feel like by having Andy, like I genuinely feel like this was one of the best things about the film. By having Andy be have a like what did he call it when he put it in his chip?
Like
Like
a
a
jewel, but
Oh,
he gives him a new objective, doesn't he? But like as
I think
an
that
actor,
I
David Jonsson basically plays two roles in this film, and he's so
I
good.
honestly feel like that was genius. I feel like taking a character who was your comfort. This character is one of the good guys. He's looking out for you. He's looking out for the main character. To then suddenly have his objective change is almost like, because obviously they've made Andy as an android be almost a little bit childlike in a way. Obviously he's got
He's
some
meant to be
there's
kind
some
of defective, isn't he? So he's
defective, so
like,
there's some ticks going on as well, some physical ticks. And for him to go from that to having this new module uploaded to him and suddenly being a Wayland Yutani
it's a company man.
operative, I honestly feel like it was great. Like I loved it. I loved it as I feel like if he would have become more of an antagonist for a while, I wouldn't have wanted him to be an antagonist for the whole film. But if there was a portion of the film where he was an antagonist, and he kind of was, I guess, but like a real antagonist, I think that would have taken it to the next level. Um, but I really
now that I
enjoyed.
think about it, as you're saying that, I'm thinking, I'm like, from what I remember of Alien Isolation, I feel like that's where the inspiration could have came from as well, because I
Yeah,
remember in that game, the androids were really, they were almost more scarier than the xenomorphs, because
definitely.
I think there was a point where they're good, and then there'll be times you'll come across them and they're evil, and it's like, whoa, this
Yeah.
has suddenly changed.
Like, you
And
can't be in this area of the ship, so
They
we're
start
gonna
yeah, and
strangling
like
you.
they
bludgeon
have the
you to
big
death.
glowing eyes. Like,
Yeah,
but I did really enjoy that aspect of the film as well. And I thought that was really like a really smart, unexpected thing to do with an
absolutely.
android in that moment. And I think because they did such a good job establishing his connection with Rain and like their relationship together, to have that like in the heat of like when things were going wrong, to then have him switch and like
Mm.
the peril that comes from that in itself. And there's one shot, I think it's after Isabela Merced character gets captured by the xenomorph when he doesn't open the door, and the way that I forgot her name. I'm gonna just say the character's name. Rain turns around and looks at him. Like I thought that shot
Yeah.
was just so impactful
He
because it kind
slaps
of
him
shows
as
that kind
well.
of she's just like in complete shock at what he's just done and what he's been capable of. doing in just allowing her to get captured.
It's great facial expression acting as well, because he has kind of got like this unsure, like furrowed brow. Like he looks a bit,
Yeah.
he looks a bit upset, let's say. And when that changes, I just think I like what they did with it, but I also feel like they missed a trick. I feel like he should have been a bit of an antagonist. And I would have loved a moment where he was having some sort of internal battle where he was trying to overcome this other module, and there would have been like an amazing moment where he ends up like ripping it out in a very pinnacle moment and like saves the day or something. Like I would have loved that,
I
because we
kind of
kind of
like how they, in a sort of understated way, because he's never outright an antagonist. It's just that he has a new primary objective, so he still cares about
That's true. That's true.
saving them, but he has to do it in the best interests of the company, which is why he's kind of guiding them through. He's kind of trying to serve both objectives now, because it hasn't got rid of his old objectives, which is to look after Rain. I think as a performance in particular, I mean, there are some great performances across this film, but David Jonsson in particular, I mean, genius as a young actor coming up, because you worry about being typecast into a particular type of role. Are you going to always be like a real baby-faced hero? Or are you going to be cast as a villain all the time? You've done two in, probably your big cinematic debut here as well.
But
Like,
not just
straight
not
away,
just
I
that.
think seeing David Johnson's name attached to another film now, I will sit up and take interest. Like, I'm in for some good performances.
Can you imagine right in this moment in the screenplay though? Andy surfs on on a xenomorph while blasting it in the face with a pulse rifle all the way down an elevator shaft. Holy shit.
And
Do you know what
then
I mean?
and then says a line which I
Yeah,
obviously
I
there's a little
mean,
bit of fan service on this one, but as I heard on listening to Weekly Planet again today, pointed out that chronologically this film comes before Aliens, so she
yeah,
stole it from him.
exactly.
The thing
I
about
f-
that line as well, the second time, is I thought that could have been less egregious if he just didn't say the last part of it. If
I
he
thought
just said,
exactly the
get away
same.
from
I
her,
thought the same.
it's like, that could have worked. And then he said that, I
Get
was like,
away
oh
from
no.
her. It was like
Made
it
it
was
his own.
enough of a nod. It was enough of a nod, but when he said "you bitch," mate, it almost felt like, okay, well, would he say that? I don't know. Have we
Yeah,
learned
it's
enough from
like,
have we learned enough from the character at this point? Like, obviously, when Ripley says it, it's her motherhood coming out
yeah.
in that moment. It's her maternal nature in that moment coming out. Um, and when Andy says it, it's almost like it's an awesome moment. I really really loved it. I
Could have
thought it
made it
was
his own.
great.
They could have said, "You bastard."
Get away from her, you
It's that
slag.
type of thing, I
Or
think, where
dickhead.
like it's feasible that he could have said those words in that moment. And it just, oh, that it's like that type of Easter egg where it's like, oh, that's the same as this, but it still makes sense that he said it.
Yeah,
But then when you add the extra bit, it's like, oh no, that is just copying that. It's that.
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Like,
also,
oh,
like,
that's that line.
Andy as a character hasn't sworn throughout the duration of this
Yeah.
film. It's just not what he does. It's a bit like that time when Madonna said fuck on the stage at Glastonbury, like, oh come on, Madonna, you're a bit, you know. And like, not in
Go
the
on, Madge.
not in the 80s, Madge. This is like, 2010s, and it's like, come on, this is on BBC. This is on
They'll
BBC
bleep it out.
iPlayer.
They'll
Wind it
bleep it
back.
out. There's 10 seconds of crossover on BBC.
Yeah.
They'll bleep it out. They kind of did it a bit with Rook as well, where Rook kind of utters the same lines as Ash, saying like, "You have my sympathies," talking about when they say, "What are our chances against the alien?" They say in the original, don't they? And he says something like, I can't remember exactly what he says, but basically that line is repeated as well, which maybe would go under the radar a little bit more. It kind of felt more suitable for the moment.
He's
But yeah,
obsessed with those xenomorphs, though, Ash. Always trying to do experiments. I don't know how many he's done to try to boil Prometheus juice out of them. It's like Willy Wonka in that lab.
how has no one noticed in that room that there's a rat that's literally just exploded with Prometheus
Yeah,
stuff?
yeah.
No one's noticed that.
Watch this video. Don't ignore that. That's just over there.
I'm gonna stop it. Right, there's 15 seconds left of this video. I've seen enough. Stop.
It's like Instagram. We'll get stung on the copyright. You can't play the rest.
Exactly.
There's
You
something
just play that
interesting
video
about
backwards of it being squashed.
there's something about Rook as well that I found interesting. I saw someone tweet, and I don't know if because Covenant is set before this, right? Yeah, it is because it's before Alien. Is
Yeah,
Covenant?
so this
Yeah,
is
Yeah,
yeah. So
because
Covenant
someone
between
said it
Alien
would
and
make
Aliens.
more sense if he was David
Yeah,
Because if he was David, then that would tie the Prometheus aspect of this film. It
yeah,
would make perfect sense that the goo got to that ship, all of that part of it as
yeah.
well. It would make so much sense that it would be Dave, and then that antagonist presence that he takes on would also make a lot of sense, and it would almost
Gonna
connect right to. It would almost make it that
it.
trilogy ending film
Yeah, it would complete
at the
the
same
trilogy in
time.
a way, wouldn't it? Yeah, because that's the thing. Now, what are we going to do? Just leave David? At the end of Covenant, his story isn't over. So now what are we going to do? We've literally gone, let's forget it. Because I feel like Fede Alvarez did say he wanted this to be a standalone film, but then it clearly does have a lot of connection to Prometheus. So in
Yeah,
a way, if you're going to connect it in that way, let's just lock it in and make that connection. Otherwise, because again, what it should do is kind of like round off those three films, but also make that connection between Alien and Aliens is what it kind of needs to do. And I feel like the connection to Alien is there, but it doesn't really fully make that connection to Aliens, does it?
yeah, it's kind of leaves it. Yeah, because it leaves it. Because I've seen people online as well, like saying, "Oh, I want a sequel to this," and I'm like, "Is there a sequel to this? Like, is there
Yeah,
room?
yeah, yeah.
Is there room for that? And what would that story be? Because their stories ended. I feel like Rain and well, but she does say, "Oh, does she say I'm gonna fix you up or I'm gonna?"
Yeah, she promises to fix them, then hands off, but they have to be careful because otherwise, eventually, space. I know space is infinite in its bigness, but it's going to have to eventually get shockers with people just floating between planets in cryosleep, having
Asleep
escaped
Yeah,
an alien
with an injured
situation.
with an injured android with them. Because it feels like I like it, but it does feel like that's three, maybe even four. Actually, I think it's three, where the end part of the film is we've only gone and blown the ship up. We've got away. Oh, so still on
yeah,
this ship now. And then the
yeah.
lead character strips down to their underwear, ready to get in bed, and then they realize, oh shit,
Yeah, that was
actually,
my disappointing thing. No, the one thing they didn't call back, no giant pants.
yeah.
I mean,
They barely cover old Sigourney Weaver in the first film, mind. I was
Yeah, it was kind
thinking,
of a shock when you watch it back. It's like, oh,
yeah, I
I guess she
know.
was like unknown then, so I guess it could work for them because yeah, she was a
Yeah.
nobody at the time.
Um, but yeah, maybe that final. Yeah, I'm not. The thing is, I really did enjoy it. I think it is a throwback to horror because I feel like there are a lot of horror moments. I think it's been a long time since we've seen cocooned people dead with like the chest burst. That was in loads of games, but I don't think we've seen it in films for a while. Maybe Alien 3 was possibly the last time we'd seen anything like that.
we get it in
Um,
Resurrection. There's a whole mess of them, isn't there? Because the army are doing it.
oh yeah, yeah, of
Oh yeah,
course.
they're capturing people, aren't they, to
Hmm.
Yeah.
to
There
kill
are
them?
there, there are some great some really great set pieces. I really like the score. I feel like it had that metallic clang of like aliens. The Alien score, the is it James Horner had that stuff going on. It had the original um theme for Alien. I've forgotten what his name is
Yeah,
now.
and like so much in the soundtrack as well is like alarms. It's like being around Birmingham
Yeah.
city centre of a Friday night. The alarms going off.
Alarm's going off constantly, like you're staying in a travel lodge. Go on, give it a
Yeah.
rest. Um, and yeah, and that little we mentioned the little moment of Prometheus soundtrack as well that we kind of hear. Um, I had a theory that I think I mentioned it to Terrelle before we recorded, but the way I thought things were going was that this pregnant character who ends up injecting herself with a certain something, we will talk about the details of this. I thought that she was maybe going to become the alien queen because I was thinking, did we ever really find out where the alien queen came from? And I thought that would have connected it nicely. If this ship ends up landing on the planet from aliens, that was an origin of sorts for the alien queen. Um, this Prometheus stuff bonding with the DNA of a pregnant woman could have potentially created that, but instead we get um what did I say? A tall Eastern European basketball player, and played by Eastern European,
Basketball player.
Romanian basketball player.
7'7".
7'7". That is, I mean, that's
Yeah.
I'd imagine his
ridiculous.
tongue isn't as horrible in real life though.
I don't think he's got a tail over now.
Probably quite a
Um,
nice man. I mean, we've jumped at some of the major parts already, but like
yeah,
just to set the scene, talking about where we are. So we begin with the first thing that's horrible before any aliens are horrible is that space is horrible and the company is horrible, and we get a very open, like I think it's quite pacey at the beginning where we get to meet everybody. So Rain is she's an orphan, she's living on a horrible planet which the film points out to us has 0 days of sunlight every year.
Oh yeah.
She's
Oh
been
wait,
working in a
it,
farm for
it
ages.
is the opening sequence then them finding a
Oh
xenomorph in
yes,
space,
sorry.
isn't it?
The
Yeah.
the first thing they do is
So
undo all Ripley's work.
so is this the actual xenomorph
Yeah.
that she blasts out of the? It is, right? Because later
So
on
you
we
see a
see
company thing get it and they drill it out and it is the alien from Alien, which as we thought they just died when they went into space, which implies there's an alien queen drifting around in space after Alien 2.
that's where they all
Yeah,
are.
they just turn into like a cube and freeze up in space.
Did you know that's what it was when you were watching it? Because I had no clue. When I first was watching the film and I was watching that scene, I did. I don't know if I noticed it the first time, but the second time I noticed it had like the Nostromo piece of the ship
Yeah.
floating around
So
that you could see.
I
But I had
noticed the
no idea what was going
Nostromo.
on. I was like, oh, what? I thought this was an entirely new thing that we were looking
Yeah.
at, like a new
So
set piece.
the only reason I noticed, so I noticed it said Nostromo, and then but I was trying to make sense of it because I was like, if that's the same alien that she blasted out, she only blasts it out of she doesn't blast out of the Nostromo, she blasts it out of the
escape pod.
escape pod, the shuttle, which I'm assuming is a bit further away. Um, but then, do you know when we see the xenomorph that's almost like Christ-like in the ship, kind of in the Romulus, it's got the well, how can I describe it? It's like a sort of grapple hook thing through it, and it shows that for a second.
I think that's
And
the one.
in Alien, obviously, when she blasted it out, it was the grapple hook was stuck to it, and that was why it ended up sticking to the ship, trying to go up the blaster thing, and then she switches it on and bursts it out. So we're supposed to believe that is the xenomorph from Alien.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. I mean, that's
So
cool, but it's kind of
undo all of our
crazy,
hard
right?
work. Yeah.
I feel like it's a bit unnecessary. It's like, oh. Because at first, when I first saw that opening scene, I was just thinking, oh, this is like, I don't,
Yeah.
have you seen, is it Halloween 6 or something? I was thinking, oh, is this some weird cult that are like
Yeah.
trying to do
Cult of
something?
the
Yeah,
Dawn?
oh, we're gonna, this
Trying to
film is
resurrect
involve a
Michael
cult
Myers?
of worshippers of xenomorphs or something that are, but no, it's just scientists that just find the
It
thing.
fe-
But like,
You're right. It did kind of feel like that. It felt a little bit alien free. It kind of felt quite industrial, and it wasn't like scientists. It was kind of like just people who'd stumbled across it, and now they were like opening this egg, and they didn't know what was going on. So what we're saying is, the xenomorph, when it gets blasted out into space, it manages, as the perfect organism, just cocoon itself to
Turn into
protect
like a
itself.
cube in case someone lasers it out in the future.
It adds a lot of stuff to the life cycle, doesn't it? This film, which is
Oh yeah.
surprising. So I feel like if you ask me a question, what else can you add to this life cycle? I'd be like, I have no idea. Like,
I also learned in a podcast recently that originally when they made Alien, there was the life cycle was meant to include that when they captured people, when there was no queen, the aliens could convert people. I don't know how, like wasps making nests, they could convert people into eggs.
oh
So
wow,
for face
okay.
huggers to come out of. So I guess like
Have
a wasp making a nest, you chew them up and then gob them out into a paste. But
have we also seen, and you, uh, Terrelle, you might be able to tell me this better than anyone, seeing as you've just watched them all. Is there a moment where we see after the alien chest bursts and then it goes away and it sheds its skin and then it obviously makes a cocoon like on a wall? Have we seen that before? Like in
I
the
don't think so, because that was kind of surprising to me at the time when I was watching it the first time, because I was like, what's going on?
yeah,
I was like, what? Because when he first zaps it, I was like, what is that? Like, what is in there?
yeah.
Because I didn't know it was the alien that was in there at first
Because
until the tail kind of came out.
I guess
And
that makes sense because I guess usually that just happens off screen. We just usually never see that moment of
yeah,
transformation or metamorphosis or whatever. I was worried for a second when he was jabbing it with the like electric prod or whatever it was that it was going to come out like with electrical powers or something. Do you know what I mean?
oh, it's
like
sort
the
of
electric
super
gremlin.
upgraded version.
Like Electro, like when Jamie Foxx and the gap between his teeth just goes ding.
Yeah,
In a bit.
fixes the gap.
That I actually don't care. That's my favorite moment in any Spider-Man film, without a doubt. I was worried for a second that that was what was going to happen. Not what worried, kind of thinking what mad shit could happen.
And
I
when they
don't know.
made that thing, they were like, right, can we put in like Fede came up with a plan here, and it was like, right, I'm gonna put in so much like genitalia based imagery that even HR Giga would
Oh,
blush
absolutely,
in
man.
this film.
Everything
Between
going on.
facehuggers trying to slip something in your gob to this
Yeah.
like birth canal looking
It's pretty
cocoon.
cool. I feel like facehuggers become like or a real main character in this. Usually they're like means to an end, aren't they? They're kind of like they're there until the xenomorphs around, then they're gone. But with this, we got like xenomorphs and facehuggers on screen together. A whole moment which is kind of like straight out of Fede Alvarez's "Don't Breathe," which is be quiet, don't say a word unless someone gets you on the radio, then reply.
Then do answer that call if you could.
Can you imagine if that actually happened? You'd just be like looking at him going, "What are you doing?"
I thought he was
What?
gonna have to. I thought he was gonna have to throw the thing like a noise distraction thing,
Yeah.
but no, he's like, "Better take this call." And you know when you're trying to get on the phone with somebody, you're trying to get off. Yeah, okay. I'm on another call. Can I help you real quick with this?
Can you open this door? I'm stuck.
Okay, can you find the
Call
key?
me back.
It's definitely there. It's like trying to give your parents IT support.
It's definitely.
It's definitely there. Yeah, task manager definitely. That's the only thing that comes up when you press those three buttons. Yeah.
But this
And have you
is
been
like a
downloading games on
sequence.
Facebook again? Because that'll be what's slowing your computer down.
I've got 10 invites to Candy Crush just in the last hour. But this sequence was straight out of a video game as well, right? This was like one of those stealth sequences. You know, you either love or you hate them. I can kind of take them or leave them. To be fair, I'm a bit like, got to crawl through this area via silence. Don't say anything in the microphone of your computer of your controller. Wasn't that what Alien Isolation did as well?
Yeah,
Apparently, if it
It did, yeah.
my dog got me killed in
oh
Alien
god,
Isolation by making a noise when I was hidden in a locker.
you get in the locker and you go, oh, thank fuck for that, and then you remember. Ah. And obviously practical effects as well. Like these practical face huggers. Seen loads of clips online of them, like little remote control going around, and then actual human beings in the xenomorph costumes as well. And as well as the big basketball guy, it's a nice throwback to the original Alien as well, with the guy who was what he definitely wasn't 7'7", 6'6".
He was
He's a big
6'10", I
tall
think.
man.
6'10", I
Six
think.
ten.
Which is
Nigerian guy.
crazy because like that's tall, and then this guy just dwarfs him. Like this
This
guy's
guy
huge.
picks him up like a
Yeah.
little baby and goes, all right, mate, how you doing?"
People are evolving more towards the perfect organism. Some will all be
Yeah.
7'7". Yeah, I mean, really want to get into the meat of it, so I mean, we'll skip over. They basically end up getting to the Romulus because life on that planet is miserable. They understand that they're never going to get. It's like a real catch-22 situation where it's like, oh, you need to do this many hours doing a dog shit job
Oh
before you're
yeah.
allowed to leave. Oh, sorry, that's just been doubled. And they're
Oh,
basically a
God.
group of orphans whose parents have died working these horrible jobs for these company. Basically, it's like a workhouse. It's like indentured service. These people are stuck by the fact they wanted to go and explore the universe and now are stuck
Mm.
working an endless job for this company that's going to
It's
continue to
lit
move the goalposts.
it's literally coal mining as well. They talk about
Yeah,
their parents dying from like lung disease, and then we even see someone with a canary like going
yeah.
down into the.
And there's new diseases every year. So there's novel diseases every year that someone else dies. If this one doesn't get you, then something else will happen. It's horrible being in space. But these people, so this ragtag group that run like a salvage ship, have worked out that they found this station. The company, careless as you like, because this alien that they want to look after so much, they've forgotten that it was on this station that's
Yeah,
just about
I'm
to
kind of
crash into
like
here.
I get it and I like it. I like the fact that it's kind of like almost like a heist, isn't it? This film,
Yeah.
in a way. I like that. That that could have easily worked, but to maybe the plot hole is Wayland and Utani. Why would they not know that their assets are up there like they would? And I kind of like the thought maybe if Wayland and Utani had like hired them and were clearly trying to stitch them up, but they just like want to send whoever in there, disposable people.
Mhm.
Um, but are we also meant to think that it is just drifted into their orbit as well.
It's
Did they say
drifted.
that?
They said they picked it up on their scanners that there is this salvage thing, and what they want is the
Mm.
cryo sleep stuff to be able to take them off to a new place. And what they need to get on there is Rain's adoptive brother Andy, who is a robot who
Mm.
her father found and basically salvaged and reprogrammed to act as like a companion, as a brother, and he has a prime directive, which is to do what is best for Rain and to do excellent jokes.
Did we know he was an android?
Really early,
from the
within like
get-go?
within like
From the
2
get-go?
minutes.
Yeah, because he gets beat up by those
Oh yeah, that's right.
people on the thing, and he's like glitching.
Those little
Um,
roustabout kids.
yeah,
What are they
there
doing?
was
Get down the
a,
mines, you horrible little bastards.
there was something I read in an article yesterday. I think it was an IGN article where they were talking about that element of the plot hole of the company not being aware or not taking action on the derelict ship. And there was something they mentioned, but I thought, well, actually, could have been a cool idea. Is that if the main characters did what they did, but then halfway through the film, Wayland Yutani sent up a crew to go and
Yeah.
like enter the mission, and then that you would have more bodies for the aliens to slaughter, but it also cause a
Yeah.
conflict and heighten the stakes with the human characters.
Imagine
I
if
think
it
that
was
was a
like,
missed opportunity.
that's great. Yeah, I like the idea of that. Imagine it was like Colonial Marines as well.
Yeah, like that, and then that could have been maybe they did want to genuinely stray away from Alien and not try and
Yeah, because
recreate
then you
it
could have
too much
almost
the
had
second one.
a little bit of back and forth between the human characters as well. Like
Yeah,
maybe them thinking, "Oh, thank God, Marines have shown up. We're all right." But no, the Marines are trying to kill you as well.
Yeah.
yeah,
Real Half-Life situation.
Yeah,
Where there's
man.
like these three different factions. Yeah,
Oh man,
that'd have been good, but you know what, it's fine. You know, it's a little contrivance. Maybe
I still like it. Yeah,
maybe the
100%.
intern was watching the thing that day and they just assumed, fucking hell, we've lost that alien. All right, we'll wait for another one to come up. Or maybe they are just, maybe they're so focused on looking for Ripley, or bearing in mind that I feel like Alien Isolation a is a press release away from just being made canon at this point, because they'll want Amanda Ripley for more stuff. Then
Oh
they could
yeah,
just say,
absolutely.
you could have just got away with saying, oh, you know what? The company realizes that fuck tons of alien on the Sevastopol station, so they're worrying about that. They don't care about this one.
Mm.
Brooks fucked it, and they've assumed everything's dead, and it's a pain in the ass to get there with only 36 hours before it goes into the thing. So that'll erase all the evidence anyway, so they're not going to bother.
Mm.
Do an audio
Yeah.
log on that and we could get it. But yeah, it's going to crash into the rings of the planet that they're going around. So they need Andy to get on there, because as a robot, he can access the
He's got a magic finger.
systems. Yeah. He presses that button just right.
That's what I do, right? If I ain't sure if someone's going to work, I put your finger in it. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. I think it was cool, though. I think it was a really cool... Like, sometimes when films establish things like this, and you're like, well, I don't quite believe that these characters would take this risk or do this thing. I feel like it established enough early on. These characters want to get off this planet. This is the way to do it. The reason they've invited Rain into the crew is because of that. And I think it's a really... they've got great dynamic with them as well, with the characters. You've got Bjorn. He don't like robots, I feel like Alien does that a lot, doesn't he? He always have a character who for some reason has had a falling out with a robot in the past.
And I know that as a species we're shit at getting on with each other over a space of 200 years, but no one likes robots for years in this one. You think they'd be used to it by now.
Yeah. Because Andy seems lovely,
Yeah.
But I think it was a good dynamic of the characters as well. We kind of understand their mission quite early on. You got to have some British people in there in science fiction films. That's just the way it works.
I tell you what, as a culture, we love space. We're always up there doing stuff. What I liked for the dynamic as well, there's a little clue in there as you go in there before we get the big reveals on characters. You notice when they first find the cryostasis pod. So I love the setup. We get all going in there. We get Chekhov's gravity, the fact that it goes off, and when it's off, it still comes on for a little bit to create some drama.
Oh yeah,
but then
that was horrible. When they first get on the ship and they've got to crawl for a horrible little. That was pretty.
Yeah, that
Like,
would put me off straight away.
claustrophobic.
I
Yeah,
don't
exactly. It
have
would, wouldn't it? Right, we're getting on this ship. You got to crawl through this tiny little gap.
Nah,
You're all right. And we
I'll
get,
stay here.
yeah, we established a gravity thing with the rat going up and down. That's cool.
We established the gravity thing, and then we find the pods. And if you notice, there are 5 pods. There are 6
Yeah.
people, including Andy. So like straight away, before it's ever been explicitly said, they are planning for someone to be left behind here because there are not enough pods, and then it's revealed.
Can he not just chill for 9 years though? Switch him off. Is that what they
Yeah,
do?
I think
They
you
did that.
just hang out, right?
David does that in Prometheus, right? What does he do?
For like 80 years.
He's just cycling around. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that what he does?
Just catches up on his reading.
Is that right? He
Teaches
cycles
himself
around.
piano.
He dyes his hair.
Oh yeah,
over and
because
over
he's
again.
manning the ship, isn't he? He's the one
Yeah.
looking after everyone.
I
Yeah.
thought that was what they were going to do with Andy. They wanted someone to like monitor everyone to make sure. Because I don't know about you. How do you feel like if cryo sleep was a genuine thing? Could you do it? Would you want to do it?
It's a
I know
risk, isn't it? 'Cause you're like,
it's a
how
big
long am I going to
question.
be asleep? How many years am I going to miss? Will I ever wake up?
Yeah. How many years am I going to miss? I couldn't wake up for 9 years, and they go, "Have you seen the new Alien film?" And I go, "Oh, what this one?" They go, "It's been free. It's been free in 9 years." Like,
Yeah.
no! Fear of missing out would hit me.
All the catching up you'd have to do, but it might
It'd
be
be
useful, I guess,
It'd be
going to another
football
planet.
for me. It would be football results. I'd need like a little alarm to just wake me up just to see what football results are, and then and then go back to sleep. That'd be fine. What's
You'd have them
that?
text
Oh,
into you in the pod. It'd be like it was a dream.
yeah. What's that? Man United? Oh, they're playing a Premier League game, and they're playing a Europa League game in midweek, and a game on Sunday. I've been woken up 3 times in a week.
I did
You
like
have
how
just
they
lived a full
described
life.
it as like being drunk, hungover for a night. Like it's
Yeah.
a one night's being drunk and hungover. That's what hypersleep feels like. I like that kind of description. I
Yeah.
think it's like a good way of like making it relatable to think, oh, like you just wake up after a
Mm.
bad hangover, and that's what it feels like, and it's been 9 years
Yeah.
or something
Because
like
some
that.
people like wake up and start throwing up, don't they? Like in the
Yeah.
films and stuff like
Mm.
that. But do you age? What's the
No.
like?
That's an
you don't
interesting
age?
question.
You don't age.
Well, Ripley, if you think about it, she's in hypersleep between the end of
You're right. You're right. Yeah, of
Alien
course.
before Aliens, and it's revealed that her daughter is supposed to have lived a full life and died of old age, unless they retcon it and she's somewhere else.
Mm.
Or
It's
that
just
was
a
a
long
cover
time
up.
to miss. Like 9 years. Like I don't know. It feels
Yeah.
kind of crazy. Isn't
I
it?
guess though,
Everyone's...
if we're traveling in space, where a year isn't the same, because obviously a year for us is once around our planet going around the
That's
sun. If
true.
you were living in space, those things wouldn't mean the
Yeah.
same
That's hurting my head
anymore.
already, man.
Those,
That's hurting my head
those
already.
like days are constructs, and like these things are your days on one planet would be very different to another. Like I think, is it Venus? I think Venus, even in our solar system, their years are half as long as ours. So if you live half on Earth, 6 months in our time is a year on Venus because that's how long it takes to go around the sun. But their days are much longer because the planet rotates more slowly. So a day is about a fortnight.
Oh my god.
So
Pretty
yeah,
interesting.
the times would go out the window. So
It
I feel
9
like a
years
film
is
should
basically just distance.
focus on that. That's an interesting
Yeah.
concept in itself. If you thrust like humans into a situation
Yeah.
on a planet that has some sort of
Like remember
differences like that.
the moment in Interstellar where they go down to this water planet. Oh, by the way, if you're there for an hour, that's like 7 years. So get yourself back here as soon as possible. And then he turn up, and that guy's just been waiting for them the whole time. He's like, I thought you were never going to turn up. It's been 30 years. And they're like, what? Horrible.
Madness.
The
It is
horrors.
horrible. So, I mean, it's just before, unfortunately, really poor timing, just before they really need Andy to help them with this stuff. This is when the guy who is, forgetting his name, is it Jay from The In-Betweeners? This is his role. He's like, real
Bjorn,
piece of shit.
his name is apparently.
Bjorn. Yeah, and he's like,
Oh,
he
yeah,
has to, pretty glad you're not coming to this planet. He's like, you what, mate? And Rain apparently knew this all along because the planet they're going to, it's where robots are forbidden. And I feel like this is one of those things. It'd be like when someone, I'm sorry, I'm moving somewhere I can't take my dog. I wouldn't move there. I'd be like,
Yeah.
would you
Or
leave your brother
you just
robot?
you just risk it, wouldn't you? I feel like you just risk it. You just go, keep your head down, Andy. Keep your head down, mate, when we get to this planet.
Don't see any robot
Don't
things.
say anything. Don't say any robot things. Yeah, is a bit like that. But yeah, Bjorn is obviously being a bit mean to Andy, and it's not very nice. I just like there is
He
a great
doesn't
moment,
like him
isn't there?
because his parents have died because a robot made a decision to, in a gas leak, he sealed
He shut them in, yeah.
he sealed their parents in. And thing is, it points out like Eileen Wu's character basically says uh the robot made a decision to save like 50 miners' lives by killing a dozen by sealing them
Yeah,
in.
that they can
Which,
make that decision.
yeah, which is a
There's a
harsh
great
decision, but from a robot logic point of view, makes sense. You save the most lives, right?
There's a great moment as well where we think Andy has finally had enough, and he's like reacting essentially, and he like really grabs him really hard, and we're like, oh, he's gonna kick his ass now. But he was just saving him from falling down a big old hole,
Yeah.
which was great. I like
Which
that as well.
actually reminds me, while it's in my head, one of the aspects. So I think something that this film does so well is that it takes so many familiar things of the franchise and kind of does new things with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the emphasis on the xenomorph's blood in this film is so like one of
Yeah.
those things where it's like, oh, that's. I feel like there's so many things they did with that where it's like that's not been done like that before. And obviously, like the third act has those moments, but I feel like that's like a brief moment to show you like, oh, like that's important in the sense that we're gonna focus on that later on and their blood and how dangerous that is in multiple ways in this situation.
This is the damage it can do.
Yeah.
And I feel like, yeah, like obviously we get some great acidic based injuries as well. But I that is one thing I really enjoy in alien films is people when they've like establishing, because we go into alien films knowing more about the alien than anybody else, any other character, and I love it when characters discover everything. I love it when characters discover that they've got a chest burster in them, because usually they go, "Oh, I'm glad that's over." It was on my face. If you remember in the original Alien, he's like, "Oh, I'm right as rain. I'm absolutely fine. I've never felt better. I have a bit of grub. It's brilliant." And yeah, I like that. I like the establishing that. I like it when characters find out that the xenomorph's got or the xenomorph or the facehugger's got acidic blood for the first time. I just love the constant reveal of new horrific stuff. I don't think I'll ever get old.
Yeah. Seeing the terrors, and there's a lovely bit of technology in this one. So they go in, they start they're looking for extra fuel for the cryopods. They go and find it. I mean, they proper Mr. Bean their way through this, didn't they? So Bjorn
Oh
burns
yeah,
his fingers on the cold stuff, but they haven't taken just a bloody minute to look around that as soon as you unplug that cold stuff, all these horrible spider things that are like plugged into bags are going to immediately start thawing out. And also a lockdown alarm's going to go off and lock you in there. You know, it would have been all right. You know, it would have been a better idea, the company, just to post it on that saying, do not unplug. Face huggers in here.
Also, aliens in water, I feel like is it should be a key part of the xenomorph. Obviously, we get it in Aliens when the xenomorph appears behind Newt. We get loads of it in Resurrection. We get them swimming about and everything.
Need eat water.
But I think it's great. I think it's really like having them underwater, watching that ripple of them. And what I like about this is that if a facehugger gets you, it doesn't mean game over. People they're fighting back. They're avoiding the horrible thing that's going to go in your mouth.
Yeah, unless it really chokes you. If you're running around, you've got quick hands around your face, you can swat them away.
Get
I think
out of
that's
it.
something that Fede really brought to this film, actually, looking back on it, is that intimate shot, those intimate shots that happens with the girl that gets it on her face and with Bjorn, where you see the thing like really trying to get into the mouth, and it's like that up close and personal, like, ugh, that's like I don't think we've ever seen it like that before. We usually just see it attached to the face and we know what's happening. But there's that scene where when they detach it from her face and they pull it off, and it's just you see it just come out of her
how
mouth.
long it is,
how long and how far down, and it's like that's horrid. And I really like put you in that kind of. Ugh, that's. I think they added a new layer to the facehuggers to make it so.
I think there's perhaps
disturbing.
some of the strongest points of that movie that's made these things. even more terrifying than they already were. It's because they have the technology to be able to show these
Yeah,
things now, and they've really upgraded their design and made them extra terror. And like even like the little air sacs, like when it does get onto that person's face and it's choking her, but then you can see it breathing for her. And did you see the viral marketing of this they've done, which
yeah.
they've had
Yeah,
people like hanging out of cars and leaning by
it's
cinema
good.
posters, which the horror film fan in me thinks like, oh, brilliant marketing. But then the guy who's 41 is like, could be kids walking past here. Wind it in, lads.
I want one of those though. That's the first thing I thought was like, obviously in the US we've got they've got loads of amazing like popcorn buckets and stuff, and
Yeah.
I saw that
The
people were
one
at
over here
screen.
looks really bland. There's one in the Odeon that's just a
Okay.
black tin with a face hugger on the outside, but it looks
Oh,
there's not that much detail so it just looks very. Whereas I've seen the Xenomorph head one, and that looks amazing. I'd love to have that one. That looks so
yeah, man.
detailed. Like,
Well,
but
when I saw there were like face hugger masks at certain screenings as well, and I'm like, I want to look on eBay, but I know it's
Didn't I
going to
see
be.
another bit of viral marketing where someone leapt up at a cinema and had a chat and they're like, and again, you'd be like, come on, mate, cinema tickets are expensive. Fucking dial it back.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing it during those trailers, or when the inevitable or the adverts for
If
here,
I'm watching
buy an
Alien Romulus,
expensive car or join the army, why don't you? The two adverts at any given cinema.
I'm not watching. I'm not taking my eyes off of Alien Romulus, even if someone starts having a chest burster like three rows away. My eyes are on this. I'm afraid.
You might turn
Uh,
around. Shh.
be quiet, will you? Um. Okay, so basically, while this is all happening and they're locked in this room fighting off the facehuggers, again, there's a couple of interesting things to do to fight off the facehuggers. They use like they freeze them, they electrocute them. This is all great stuff.
Oh, this was so bad when poor old when Tyler almost gets one on him and Bjorn like he's found that shock stick and he shocks it off him, but it shocks his mate at the same time and he like
Yeah,
passes out on the floor.
yeah. And he's like, sorry. So Rain and who else jump on the ship to go and try and help them?
Aileen Wu is the actor's name, but what is her character's name?
Um, Navarro.
Navarro.
Navarro. So they go, and the way that they manage to do it is and it's Rain's idea, grab this module from like a deceased halved android, which is, again, we think is a throwaway thing, just slung on the ground there, melted in half. Grab this module, pass it through the little gap in the door, give it to Andy. As soon as he got this module, we think, right, now he's got the finger. Now he's got the finger pass,
He's got the
and he
red
can
key
get through.
card now. He
But
can get in.
this is very effective as well. As soon as they put it in, I guess he reboots. His eyes go white like the Undertaker, and his hands are all like, oh.
it's
Yeah,
almost like a Christ, like no, not Christ, but like some sort of religious. Because it almost looks like he's summoning the facehuggers when he stood there like that, and they're all
Yeah.
just dropping in front of him. So it's
Either he's
very
having like a
like,
like revelation, all of this
yeah.
like knowledge is being
there
put in
is
him.
there is tons of like religious iconography in the Alien franchise. As much as you think it's all about things looking like genitals, it's that as well. But I think there's loads of stuff. There's loads of stuff with people like making this pose. Obviously, you see it with Ripley when she falls into the like lava stuff in Alien 3,
Well,
and
you've
this
forgotten,
with the
haven't you, Ben,
xenomorph up there.
that Jesus, our Lord and Savior, was a space Jesus. He was one of the things. That's why they're so pissed off with us in Prometheus.
Yeah, pretty
Apparently, it's
much.
in like some
We
extended lore
crucified him.
that genuinely Jesus was. I mean, I don't know how the Romans did it. He was massive, like 8 foot bloody tall, and could snap your head off a robot like nothing. Um, but
But
like I
yeah,
don't know
there's
how the
obviously
Romans got to him.
loads of stuff about creation theories as well. Like I think it is there's loads of fascinating stuff. Um, but yeah, so essentially he reboots, he manages to get them out of there, and then we get this a great sequence where, and this was scary because all the facehuggers are like working together to like open the door, weren't they?
Turning into like
Um,
a big pair of hands, like knocking at the door. Oh, hello? No. Yeah, they're trying to like prise the door open, but one
and
of
it,
them gets out and Navarro cops it.
yeah, latches straight onto Navarro, and yeah, but this was a moment from the trailer as well, and then we saw the facehuggers running and stuff, and yeah, that was pretty scary. So yeah, it grabs hold of her, and obviously it's implanting the chest burster into her. But again, these characters don't know that. They're trying to get the. Do they work out now that there's acid
At
blood?
this point, Andy knows some things. He has some basic
Yeah, that's right.
information, but then they switch on not Ash, Rook. Should have
Yeah.
had a name that was a combination of Ash Charmander. They put him on, and he gives them some extra explanations, and that helps them. They think, oh, will freezing it work? And it does. But it doesn't die. Usually the facehuggers die after they've implanted an egg, and it's still alive, and they just chuck it down a hole. See you later.
Yeah, maybe because I think they say like, has it fully? Because again, we've never seen them get one off so quickly.
But Rook knows, and he's like, oh, has it implanted a thing in it? And he goes, oh, 60-40.
Oh, cheers. Thanks, mate. I'll take those odds.
That's better than a coin toss, thanks.
Yeah. But basically, he not only does he tell them about that, but he tells them that the whole crew was killed by a xenomorph and its clones. That's what it
there
says
he is
here.
up there.
It's clones. There he is up there. And obviously the big hole in the ground is just obviously where it said, and then it activated its, what does it call it?
It said it's like last weapon, which is its blood's all acid. So the final security team shot it, I assume with Rook standing directly under it, and then it melted him in half.
Not with bloody legs. Yeah, so I think Rook says it may have implanted a seed, 60-40. And then pretty much immediately Bjorn is like, right, let's go, Navarro, let's go. And then this is when we get to see Andy, his new module come into work, which is he can't let Bjorn and Navarro leave, and he gets his sprint on after them, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I thought this was cool as well. I like this.
Yeah,
very intense. Because it's that jarring moment where you hear his voice, and you're like, wait a minute, that's different.
Yeah,
and then you realize, oh, he's just changed.
Incredibly like matter of fact the way he speaks, isn't it?
And I love it how it's like it said like, oh, the new system is basically it's repairing my motor functions, like because you see like when he first comes back online, he catches a facehugger by the tail and like whips it up into a
of course
thing. So like he's incredibly capable now, and like you see him holding a door and prizing it open to stop them escaping. But they are able to escape because Bjorn has basically taken the fact that, you know, and Andy has said, you cannot let her leave because if she's infected, even though we've got that X-ray torch, we can't check with that right now. She shouldn't be allowed to leave. There's a panic.
The X-ray torch.
They leave, and they leave behind Andy, Rain, and
Tyler. It varies throughout the films how long incubation period takes as well, right? Because obviously with John Hurt's character,
every cycle of the xenomorph life cycle is whenever is plot relevant. That guy,
yeah,
that guy in Alien Resurrection holds a chest burster in like someone trying to hold a shit at a music festival. That's the entire runtime of that film. Meanwhile, poor old Navarro is facehugger to chest burst within 10 real life minutes.
What's that about? It's almost like it knows trying to escape or something. So it's like, right, we gotta get out of here. And yeah, that is when is it Isabela Merced? Is that her name? Kay. Yeah. So she revealed earlier on as well to Rain that she's pregnant. Did you know? Do you recognize Isabela Merced from anything else?
Transformers 5.
Is she? Is she in Transformers 5?
She's an annoying little kid in that film.
Is she?
Yeah.
So
and she's Dora as well.
Dora.
I never saw that Dora film, but that Dora film's apparently really good. But
yeah, I remember taking my daughter to see that, and that was where I recognized her from. I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is Dora the Explorer. I can't be 100%. I can't be 100% sure.
Dora in space.
Are you watching this now? Feel old yet? This is Dora today. Picture of a full-term pregnancy.
Yeah, I think she's a Madame Web as well. So you know,
that surprised me. I didn't even. Obviously, that's the most recent thing we would have seen, but I didn't even make the connection until I saw it on Wikipedia.
Me neither, man.
She's about to be in New Superman as well. She's the new Hawk girl.
Oh, really?
That's really interesting.
That is interesting, yeah.
She's Dina in The Last of Us Part 2, the show.
Oh, cool. Okay. Oh, yeah, that works, doesn't it? Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. That's cool. That's a good casting. I did see Superman in something for the first time the other day as well. He's in Twisters. Have you
Oh,
guys
new
seen that?
Superman.
Yeah.
He's in Pearl as well. He's that guy in Pearl. The
Oh,
The cinema
the
guy.
yeah.
okay. Didn't know that either. I didn't know about Twisters until afterwards when I was just looking through the cast or
I
something.
mean,
But
Superman got a proud history with Twisters. That time he didn't save his dad from what time? From
oh
one.
yeah,
Don't.
no,
All right,
don't
let me
save
die.
me. It'll be a split second. No one will even see it with the human eye, but don't save me because everyone will know you're Superman then. Come on, come on.
Can I? All right, Dad. I promise I won't save you, Parkent. But can I rescue the dog? Okay.
Yes, you can.
But
Why
I am
not?
going to get swept off by this tornado. But that's besides the point. So yeah, she stayed on the ship the whole time. So is there to witness Navarro getting back, and she
Yeah.
gets she pocketed that X-ray torch that we saw shining through her arm earlier on, and we thought we're gonna see someone have a go on that in a minute for a chest burster, and we get to see it. We see that it's in there, and then it bursts out immediately, causing a series of unfortunate events, and almost Final Destination style.
Yeah.
While she's twitching about, having a chest burster come out of her, kicks the controls of the ship, which plows it across the station, damaging several vital things. Crash lands safely in the cargo hold. That's all right. But now, instead of like 36 hours
Oh
until
God,
the
yeah.
station degrades and falls into the rings of the planet where it'll be sandpapered to oblivion, it goes about half hour now.
Yeah, yeah, it goes, well, it was going to be like 48 hours or something, but now it's been knocked off course a few degrees, so now it's about half hour. You'd be like,
Yeah.
oh, for fuck's sake, God. So annoying. But yeah, Bjorn like falls down into the cargo hold. This is also the moment we saw Isabela Merced deliver a very big scream after the chest burster movement. In the trailer, this was the silent scream moment, which is obviously very cool in the trailer, but just as cool in this moment as well. Then what happens? Does it just run off? We get a nice close up of it. It's a chrome toothed one. What he's got his grill on. He's got his grill.
Goldie
looking-
gets born.
Yeah, but also like I was kind of looking up that as well. So there are of the different types of xenomorph. This one's called a drone. So it was in the first film. It's called a drone, recognizable by like its head but also the chrome teeth. But the ones in Aliens are soldiers, warriors, something like that. They got like a ridged head and stuff. But this one, so yeah, I guess the connections to the original Alien here are that this is almost the same type of alien. Yeah, and then I guess its life cycle, it just speeds up again. We see the little disposed condom skin on the ground to see that it's
What does it grow with though? Because like it hasn't had time to consume anything. You can't just grow because, surely.
Wow. I don't know. It gets into his little thing. Boy, it's
Programs
the perfect.
himself to grow like Jet Jaguar. That's a deep cut.
It's the
There we go.
it's the perfect organism. Jumps up onto his horrible little thing, and then yeah. So pretty much immediately Bjorn. I feel like I'm rushing ahead, but I feel like it is that quick that it ends up. I know we
Yeah, I think
go
there might
back.
have been like a scene in between that cut back to them on the ship
Yeah,
trying to
Going,
do something.
bloody
I can't remember
hell.
what it was.
they're trying
Maybe
to
it was
get across the ship. I
Oh no,
think.
this is where the star of them going through the facehugger room is, isn't it? Because he's
Yeah,
consulting
they're-
with Brooke and he's telling him about the facehuggers in the other room or something in the temperature, and they're about to go into that room.
And they're waiting for the room to warm up. And Rooker's told, this is where we've also had a scene where Rooker's gone, actually, I think you'll find you've got a new prime directive. And he goes, let me just check. Tell you what, I bloody have.
You got to do what's in the best interest of the company. But yeah, when they're trying to get through that room, they whack up the temperature and they go like, "Don't sweat, 'cause that's your body cooling down." Okay, I'll tell myself not to sweat, not to sweat.
Don't sweat. Don't make a noise. Certainly don't take any calls.
Don't take any calls.
Something
Yeah,
I noticed in this film as well, the second time, there are a few poor pieces of dialogue that are like explanatory. There's a few moments in the film, and they happen quite close together, I think, where I can't remember one for an example, but one happens when they're outside that room, where someone will say something very simple that whether you've seen any alien film or not, you'll understand what that is. and then Rain or someone else will be like, what does that mean? And they'll just explain it, and it's like, we know what that is. Like they say something to do with the body temperature. And then he says like, oh, the temperature needs to be this. It's like, what does that mean? And then he explains it. It's like, yeah, we know that.
Come
It's like
on.
foolproof dialogue.
Like when anyone explains an EMP in a film after 1990, it's like, we know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it's for the people who've never seen an Alien film before, the 4 people who are watching it, probably more than that, but still. But yeah, while this is happening, it's good because the moments of them on the smaller ship trying to escape the xenomorph, and then these guys trying to walk through the room with the face huggers kind of happen in tandem, don't they? That's pretty cool.
What do you reckon to Bjorn's death? So he sees that sort of pod thing. He gets a big electric stick right up it, and then gets sort of acided.
What actually happened to him at the end? Because I got confused both times. Did his heart just pop when the acid reached it? Because it almost seems like he there's like a explosion, as if he got shot or something. But I'm assuming that's just the acid like reaching his heart.
Lands on his hands, on his chest, on his side, and then I assumed it kind of got
popped
to
his lungs, maybe, or his heart.
Yeah, or something like that. Because there is like a pop, and I'm like, oh, that maybe his heart. Or
poor Bjorn's fingers have had a right walk through because they got frozen off earlier. I thought he was going to snap them off from being frozen.
Yeah,
and then moments later, I've got the acid on them now.
It's
and
horrible,
that's the problem with acid. He's trying to wipe it off on his shirt, but his shirt's just melting. It's like when you put some potato that's too hot in your mouth and there's nothing you can do about it. Can't swallow it. Stuck to the roof of your mouth.
It is pretty horrific though, like because most of the time when we see these like deaths in alien films, it's just like an explosion of acid in the face or something, or a bit of acid on the face. This is, I guess, kind of realistic. It's just like avoiding the drips would probably be quite difficult, wouldn't it? Be like, oh shit, Jesus!
Roll out the way.
Felt like an Evil Dead moment as well. The way it was done and the way the camera pulled back and he's looking at his hand and it's melting as well, and parts of his face. All that was like an Evil Dead-esque Fede Álvarez moment.
Because it like became horrific and gory just like in a few seconds, just like this is like,
and you always knew that he was going to be the one. If there was going to be some sort of nasty death, he'd be the one to get it because of just how he was treating Andy.
It's going to be him because he was the rudest. I mean,
yeah,
I turned against all of them when they were that mean to Andy. I was like, well, nothing he does wrong now. Man. Nothing he does now makes up for that. You've called it on yourselves.
Okay, so while that's happening, while he's dying essentially, is when Kay is trying to escape, and that's when she calls up Tyler and says like, what did she say? Where are the keys or something?
Where are the keys? It's like, where did you have them last? And then again, he's trying to desperately get her off the phone because the facehuggers are starting to pay attention because he's like, yeah, try in the kitchen, in the kitchen drawer. And then like it feels like he's trying to desperately get her off the phone. And she's like, what are you doing now? I can't. You're always trying to get me off the phone.
And then obviously quite a good moment from because you need this moment really. Somebody saying run, which is what Andy says, and they all sprint away from the face huggers. How do they get away? They manage to just close the door, don't they? I think they try to close one door and they get through, and then
Andy closes the door and he has to do like a little Indiana Jones slides through.
Oh yeah, and he says that you nearly closed the door on him. He's like, but I didn't. I calculated it very well.
I calculated it to perfection.
Better than last time. What time did he mean? He said like the last time he closed the door on someone.
Maybe Bjorn managed to close the door on him. Maybe that's what he's saying.
Okay, I see what you mean. And yeah, of course, then we get a moment so they go to try and get Kay out of the hangar, I guess. And I just kept thinking, all this time you've been having the conversation about what to do, could have had her in that out of that door and shut the door behind you.
But the alien's watching. He's gonna stick his foot in a door like a 1980s like vacuum salesman. The second you open that door, so Andy's not gonna open the door, despite the fact they're begging him, and it's sad. But I'm not saying I identify more with the robot just because we got the same name, lads. But I agree with him. That alien would have been straight in. So
I love the shot of it just perched up watching when
Yeah.
he mentions that, and it's just sat there watching. You're like, it just is one of those moments where you're like, this creature's so smart, like it's just
Yeah.
there. Like I think that's quite terrifying. Like it's not even taken action yet. It could, but it's just watching them struggle.
Yeah. It's good though because they also mention later on when they're like even aiming a gun at it might put them off for a while, you know. So
Yeah.
they're not like mindless creatures just going to come at you. They
is
will
this
hang
implying
back
that
if
the
there's a
alien
threat.
has like a genetic memory in the same way that later on, obviously, Alien Resurrection, like Ripley remembers being
Yeah.
Alien 3 Ripley to a degree.
Mm.
Does the alien have a genetic memory? Although has it encountered guns yet? Not in any of the films that we've seen. But like
Maybe it
is
just
this something that
realizes
passes
when a
on
threat.
between them?
Yeah.
An interesting thing.
It
Not
is
too sure.
interesting, yeah, because obviously there's the xenomorph and human, like the DNA, there is a lot of crossover there, hence why they exist essentially. From
Thing is,
everything.
that's not like obviously it's born to a certain degree. Like if you were to, and I cannot stress enough, I'm not recommending anyone does this. If you go and point a gun at an actual baby, it won't be like, "Whoa, be careful of that."
There's only
If
one
you
way to find
if
out.
you go and stick a gun in a baby's face, it'll be like babies explore the mouths. You'll be like, but xenomorph babies,
I did not expect that.
xenomorph babies, that will be careful of that.
Yeah, I guess like DNA memory. It must be something like that. Because
Like the
the
Assassin's Creed franchise, that's what they got. They've been in the Animus. They know.
because the fact is like they immediately these xenomorphs immediately as they are born they immediately look to kill, and we see it dragging bodies away, so it knows it needs to drag bodies somewhere, make like a nest, and then start the whole process over again, right?
Yeah. Make a
Bloody
nest, put people in front of
eggs,
Eggos so they can get
leathery eggs.
a face hugger on them.
So I thought that Kay was like definitely dead at this point because I thought the tail just went straight through her, but was it just a shoulder or something, or did it
Yeah,
scoop
she
her
got
up?
spiked in the shoulder and
Yeah,
slapped
I
off.
guess they didn't make it that clear.
No, I
But
thought she's done for. There's no way.
Oh, I
But
tell you
no,
what,
apparently
the
just
sickest burn of all, where it's like when there's like, so Kay's been slurped off, and they're like, you can't just leave people behind, and he's like, oh, can't you?
yeah, he does. He's been sitting on that.
I think
Sitting on that one.
you'd have to be like, that's fair, actually. Yeah, fair enough. 1-1.
I guess after this is where we get the. If this was a game, this is the save room. They go back to the lovely, well lit like room with all the guns.
The orgy of evidence that it's all Umbrella Corporation all along,
Yeah.
where they, and Rook, who we mentioned how liberally they use this character of the recreated actor here, which I think is quite a big deal here. You may have thought it would just been on for a second, but he's on video screens left, right, and center saying, okay, see this?
He looks like Benny Games Master, doesn't he, when he's on the video screen? Just going out.
Games Master's on there saying, right, see this venom looking juice here? That is Prometheus source. And you get that from blending up the face huggers. Ignore the big rat there. Look, if I crush this rat like Kevin Bacon in Maxine and give it a bit of Prometheus, it gets better.
Crush this rat like
unnecessarily cruel way to test on this thing. Not just like,
yeah,
oh, can I painlessly break this rat's neck? No, we have to crush it in a miniature, a machine that must have been specifically designed to crush rats.
Yeah, someone's made that. Someone's put together
there's a division.
Concept.
There is a Wayland Yutani robot with another name, like Bastard or Horsey or another chess piece, whose job has been to invent small animal crushers.
So obviously here is where we get like the most obvious connection to Prometheus. Not just the word Prometheus being mentioned, but also a bit of the soundtrack. Terrelle, how did you feel about this? Do you think this was?
I was actually quite surprised because I didn't expect any sort of Prometheus connection in this film at all. And I love Prometheus, so like, and I really love the score of Prometheus. So when I just heard that music as well, it felt oddly comforting in a way. But I thought it was very interesting that they made that choice to make that connection to Prometheus at all.
Yeah.
And especially just with the goo, because I feel like that was, I guess if you're going to make a connection to Prometheus, that would be the connection you'd make. But I feel like that was the controversial thing of Prometheus was the aliens have come from this goo. People are like, what is this
Yeah. And
scary
obviously,
life form has come from goo?
Yeah, I mean, I
we
didn't
don't.
dislike Prometheus I like it as a concept. I didn't mind the goo stuff. My problem with Prometheus was it was the ideas for 6 movies that they shoved into one. Like
One,
that,
yeah.
like that scene where it is the thing for a minute, but then not again.
Yeah.
I. It's weird though, isn't it? Because the goo, I guess we don't, in chronological order, we don't see it again in the franchise. It's almost like this is, unless we get more um films in between the others, this is like the last time essentially. So how do you what do you think happened? Do you think this was a studio thing that they were like, we need to make this connected to Prometheus because otherwise we don't want to just rip it up and start again?
Otherwise, Ridley Scott was
Rid
lying when he said it was shared DNA.
well, Ridley Scott was a producer, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So maybe it was a shared decision between him and Fede where they were just like, you know, I want to connect it to this film in a way, in a little way. So
I feel like it was more of that. Like it was both, either both of them, or I could potentially maybe even see Fede Alvarez just putting that
yeah,
in there himself.
Yeah.
Probably knowing, I feel like just knowing that he's making the film, knowing that Ridley's producing, probably thinking, oh, presenting that idea maybe.
yeah.
And
Once
Because
you
even
make
like
those connections, right?
it's because it'd be awkward if you went into a meeting and said, "Right, Prometheus, Alien Covenant, we're not. Forget it. It
yeah,
never
yeah, yeah,
happened."
forget it ever
Yeah,
happened.
these dog shit ones, get them out of here.
Ridley's in
Um,
the room going, "I actually quite like it. I like the films that I made."
yeah, I
No.
cancelled the Neil Blomkamp one for this, so you fucking make this stick, all
Oh
right?
yeah.
Um, I think with like I was surprised, and I wasn't unpleasantly surprised that they brought it in. I think there were some real interesting parts about it. In a post Venom world, there is too much black goo in space, but yeah, I was interested in them doing this, and the whole idea with it was that basically, unlike Ash from Aliens, who fucking creamed his genes over his space genes over xenomorphs,
It's
actually,
space.
Rook didn't really care so much about the aliens. He's like, right, the real gold here is this juice. Because he's like, well,
Yeah.
actually, having sat down and thought about it for a minute, what are xenomorphs going to do to help us explore and colonize space? That's useless because they're just
And we're
monsters. We can't send them out to colonize space for us. The problem
Mhm.
is that we as humans are too fragile because we get these diseases, we can't survive in space, we need too much food and warmth and things. So actually it's overdue that we had an upgrade. And this black juice will allow us to upgrade our own genetics. And I think even it tries to explain, we were taking the piss out of the fact that the aliens can grow and evolve at will. He points out that like with this allows organisms to speed up or slow down its cellular rates, which I guess would say if you're an alien, that bit of law would say, right, fucking I'll grow quick. It might allow you to do that and overclock your DNA and your biology to grow quickly and heal from things.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
It's
he's
an
right.
interesting
Keep
thing as
this.
well. I just like how it, because I like Prometheus so much, I like how it validates Prometheus more because
Mm.
Prometheus and Covenant on their own are like still quite detached from the original films. And now that you've got this in here, which is so like placed within between Alien and Aliens, it's like, oh,
Mhm.
now that is really if it wasn't or if it wasn't considered canon, but it was considered canon before, but if it wasn't, now it definitely is because it's like right in the middle of the two like
Mm.
iconic stories as this element that the characters are dealing with.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
And then, to be
Um
fair, as soon as I did see, because I think I knew in my head, as soon as Isabella's character, actually, to be fair, we don't know she's alive at this point. But when I first saw her character in the film and she mentioned pregnancy, I think you
yeah.
all kind of in your head, you're like, oh, I think this is going to go somewhere wrong. And as soon as I saw that goo, I was like, although I didn't know she was alive, I was like, that, or I think when I first saw her alive, then I thought, right, goo, her,
Yeah.
she's pregnant,
Because
something's going to go wrong.
it does a bit of a fake out, doesn't it? We think they're going to use that goo to save her,
Yeah.
I think
but
actually
then
no, don't do that.
but then Rain just convinces them not to. So I
Not
was
to
like,
give that kind of
okay, so we've avoided that. But how films work,
yeah.
you can't avoid terrible decisions forever because otherwise the plot it would just end there. So
Just I think the film does such a good job setting up so many things, whether it's like the X-ray torch or like every little thing is gravity thing at the beginning, like everything's set up and
yeah.
shown, and it comes back around. So it's like that goo's there for more than just the mission. Like it's there. You've got someone that's pregnant here that almost took
Mm.
it. It's like that goo is gonna be used. Like,
It's gonna turn up at some point, and not
yeah,
just because Shredder's hand ain't coming out of the garbage crusher and just
yeah.
grabbing that secret of the ooze style at the end. Like it is
She didn't even know. Does
gonna
she
get
even know what
used.
it does? Like when because she gets left alone with it,
Well,
and does she even know
she is
dying?
poorly.
Yeah.
And then I think I like this in the film, which is very heavily about, you know, like enforced pregnancy and impregnation and these things that happen. Like it's very like sexually confronting, and assaulting for the way the aliens and the xenomorphs life cycle was designed to be. The very fact I think that she herself is given some agency, because we find her pretty quickly after this moment. I think Rain gets taught how to use a gun, but then Andy says,
Yeah.
"Oh, but don't
With
use
the
it because we're at the bottom of the ship. It will melt the room. We're all dead."
with the auto aim on, what an absolute noob.
Yeah,
I do like that they added that
Push
though,
off.
because it because I know exactly what would have happened otherwise. Is people would have been like, "Oh, how did she learn to shoot so quick and she managed to do
Yeah.
this, and this?"
But then
So I
again,
thought it was cool that that
there's
was
still a
there.
moment like that in Aliens where Ripley gets shown how to use the pulse rifle, and
and the smart
she's pretty
gun is the
effective
one
with it.
that Vasquez carries as well, and that is the gun. If you play the
Yeah.
Aliens versus Predators game, that's what the smart gun does. It auto
I'm
aims.
not. I'm only joking. There's absolutely no way I would use it without the auto
Yeah.
aim. I'd be like, hell yeah,
I mean, you won't be able to
hell
play
yeah.
ranked matches, but you absolutely for a not for a survival mode like this, you put it on every advantage you can get.
100%.
That accessibility, Ben, you and your Elden Ring get good. That's you.
Mm.
Um,
Playing it with a dance mat.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. So
so they basically that bit comes through, and then they find Horrible Corridor, and they find Kay, and that's when they get the choice. Do you want to give us some Prometheum X? And she goes, they're about to do it. Rain suggests not, but then ultimately a little bit later, she is given that agency herself to make that choice, and she opts to do it because she's worried about dying.
mm.
And her brother
Yeah,
dies as well.
and her brother pretty much immediately dies, and I hate that. I know that's the way films are. They're meant to tear at your heartstrings, but like you just feel so devastated when you're like, okay, we've done all this work to rescue this person from this place, and now one of the people who was trying to rescue it, now they're just dead, just completely dead, and it's almost like we get a replication of the aliens moment where they look up in the air vent, and we see them all crawling creepily. We get a replication of that, which is great. Because yeah, I was thinking for a while, oh, I wonder if it's just one. If we've gone back to basics like Alien, where it's just one xenomorph roaming around, causing everyone loads of problems. But no,
My
there's
question
more
for
than
you though
one.
is where have these other lads come from? Were they just over there?
Yeah, I guess.
I think it's
Yeah,
because the nest was right buried deep, wasn't it? So I guess they couldn't
yeah.
get up because of that elevator shaft. Oh, well, I guess
Maybe
they
we
could.
are. Maybe we are in the other section. Maybe we are in the
That's
other
why I was
section of
quite
the ship.
confused. I was like, did they transfer over to the Remus side and that's where they are? They're on
Yeah.
that side of the
Do you
station or
know
something.
that would have been cool if they were like, oh, as far as we can tell, the Remus side is completely safe from
Yeah,
alien, and then they open it up and it was
Marked
just
safe.
and it
huge
was
nest.
just a huge nest, and they'd be like, actually, no, just close that door.
Maybe they were
Um,
just maybe they were just in those pods that were all kept frozen. We just didn't see them unfreeze when they unplugged the fuel.
yeah, I'm not sure, but
Either way, they're all
possibly.
there.
I
And
did
at
Yeah, at
this
one
like the
point,
stage,
shot of the xenomorph when it lifts him up, and it's that main shot they use in the marketing. But I think it's one of those things where it's like CGI wouldn't have the same effect
no,
because, and I think this goes for all the shots of the xenomorph. And why I love like all the close-up shots of them is you can just your brain just knows that's a physical thing in the frame,
mm,
and you can just see it. Like you can just feel that, and there's the shot where it's got like the flashing light, the strobe lighting, there's smoke around it, and it's like its mouth is open and you can see all the thing,
Yeah.
and it just looks so amazing.
I always find myself just looking at the detail, like there's the biomechanical like detail of all of its body and stuff. Like it's just so weird. Like even though like what are we like 40? Oh wait, how many years since Alien? 45 coming up.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, something like 45 years. Like it's like one of the best movie monsters because I think no matter what happens, you always understand the threat of it. You know that you've got no chance if if you're going up against it. You know that. And it is crazy looking. It's insane. What film is it that describes it as like a dragon? I think that might be Alien 3. And that's always kind of stuck with me where I'm like, yeah, I guess it kind of is. Like it is a bit like that, like an acid dragon or something. But um, but yeah, that happens. It kills Tyler, and then Andy gets like incapacitated at this point, doesn't he? He takes a few slaps to the head, doesn't he?
It bashes him on the floor, and I think again, this is one of those things. And again, they've leaned into this very well with the video game sides of the lore, is that xenomorphs are smart enough to know what is and isn't biological.
Yeah, that's
and
cool. I like it.
Unless synthetic humans are actually fighting with them, they largely ignore them. And it's replicated by this in the games where, as you're playing as a xenomorph, a human glows and is like prey, but a synthetic human person doesn't appear at all. Like they're just a bland, colorless thing in your vision because they don't function like people. They don't have a circulation. They don't have body heat the same way. So once Andy is incapacitated and knocked down, facehuggers crawl directly past him. A xenomorph looks down at him and sort of gives him a little roar. But when he's not an active threat, they have no interest in killing him. It's not a practical thing.
Yeah. So at this point, Rain escapes with Kay.
Yeah, she takes Kay up the end of Resident Evil at big elevator.
There's loads of Resident Evil stuff in this. You know when like there's a countdown as well. Actually, I think maybe that was Alien, the original one I watched. Like,
well, they're at this point now where it's like
explode.
The warning is just going off as warning. Please evacuate immediately. It hasn't quite got to the point where they go 3 minutes counting down yet for you to do the last boss. That comes in a minute.
I've never let that countdown run down on Resident Evil either. I'm always way too on it, just sprinting around everywhere. Get me out of here. So she decides at the last moment that she actually needs to go and save Andy. She can't leave him down there. Yeah. And I guess this is our Ripley rescuing Newt from the nest at the end of Aliens moment, isn't it? And we even get that money shot of her coming out of the elevator, gun in hand.
I love the plan that she had, though, is just to go back, assuming that, because when she runs to that elevator with Kay, there are facehuggers and xenomorphs literally at the door. She's gone back down with the assumption that they've gone, oh, well, then missed them.
Wrap it up.
Let's move on, shall we? I mean, we've got 10 minutes till we get sandpapers by the rings of Jackson, so let's go and spend some time with our families, I guess.
So, manages to get Andy, takes out the module. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, he tries to resist her at first because he can still move, and she's like, "Look,
this is
what's good for the company right now is that if you let me help you, I will make sure you can move again, and it's not in the best interest of the company if you die." And he relents. Let's take it out, and then he's back to just nice Andy again.
Yeah, I mean, he was still nice Andy. He was just nice Andy who loved the bloody company.
Nice Andy with a job.
Nice Andy with a job. So yeah, and now they escape up the elevator shaft, don't they? Oh no, wait.
Oh, first they have a sit down.
I don't know why I've skipped over that. Sorry about that.
Space.
Carry on.
She does some jokes. Oh, well, they do some jokes, and he's giving up. And then one of the jokes, just like a detective story, where John Nettles, old Chief Inspector Barnaby's lost a thing, and then Joyce will say something, and he'll go, actually, that's the solution to that murder, Jonathan Creek style.
I don't know how I feel about this in films. Like, it's all right, but like, when someone says something, they go, "Say that again," and then they'll say it, and they'll go,
"It's like you're getting right on my wick." That's it. The candles.
That's
I
it,
saw
John Wick.
someone use the Fantastic Four meme to describe it. You know, where at the end they're stood there and he's like, something, something, that's fantastic. And then Reed just looks at the thing and he goes, say that again. And then it's
Oh
got
no!
Fantastic
Oh
Four.
my god! Oh my god! Exactly. I
And she
mean,
says something like, oh, doesn't understand the gravity of the situation. She goes,
Yeah.
hang on a minute.
yeah. I
And he's like,
mean,
what are you
there we
doing?
go. So essentially, switch off the
Thankfully,
gravity.
the button for the gravity is just there. Like, oh,
Yeah,
off.
it's just there. Turn it off. So switch off the gravity so that all the xenomorphs that are blocking the way and going to kill them will float into zero G. And when they kill them, the acid blood, rather than all dripping down and just destroying the ship, it will just float around in
Just become
horrible.
like a laser maze, like entrapment.
Yeah. So that is essentially what happens. She just blasts the living shit out of them, right? Or Andy's basically telling her how much percent she's got left on her on her
Yeah.
on her pulse drive. 20%, 10%. Um, blasts them into bits, and then this is the moment. This is like the zero G Dead Space moment. I mean, again, if this was a game, this is that. This is that bit in Earthworm Jim where you're in the submarine and you're trying to avoid all the rocks.
Yeah.
Horrific.
No better explanation than that. Oh man, what she wouldn't have done for like a cupboard of cleaning supplies to just throw a load of sponges down the corridor first.
But it's
Mop
good
it
that
all up.
she does use the pulse rifle as like a little like to propel herself as well. A couple of points, doesn't she? Would it
Yeah.
look like that, or would it look like literal like circular blobs, spheres? I don't know.
Don't know, I'm not a gravity
No, I thought
scientist.
it was a cool visual.
Oh yeah, it did look good.
It's interesting because I remember when the first trailer, the teaser trailer came out, there's that shot of the big piece of it, and I didn't even know
Yeah.
what that was in the
It
trailer.
was. It's
Kind
like
of,
when the title starts to appear, isn't it? You see
yeah,
that.
and I kind of didn't want to
No.
analyze it because I was like, I don't want to know what that is. But then seeing it in the films, oh, that is really cool. Just the idea
Mm.
of taking their blood, establishing how dangerous it is on the ship to have their blood leak onto the ship, and then to use the zero gravity to kind of to maneuver around it. I thought that's just so smart.
Yeah.
Alien blood is so disruptive that if the company ever did domesticate them, no landlords letting you have them in a property, the dilapidations would be obscene. Yeah, so they get ready, they navigate their way through the acid, and it's like, right, final lift ride. I hope to goodness gracious sake that several things just don't go wrong during this final climb up this ladder. And they're flying up anti-gravity style, swimming through the air. And then, of course, as we learned at the beginning, that even when the gravity is off, every so often it has to have a little go at
Oh
coming
yeah.
on.
Purge. Gravity purge, they say. So, what's that used for again? That's used to stop the ship just falling apart. I can't really.
It's to stop it.
Explain
It's
it.
to stop
Something
it
like that, like a
exploding and
safety
falling out of
protocol.
orbit
Yeah.
more than it already is.
Yeah. So that's
So
what
every couple of
happens.
minutes, it has to give you about 20 seconds or so of it going off, and Rain almost catches up, and Andy's able to reach her, but the gravity comes back on and she falls,
Oh yeah.
possibly to a death, until an alien catches her.
I like to think that the alien saved her. The alien was a friend in this moment because it's almost like it catches her, and then I know we're supposed to have this moment where the hero and the xenomorph face off, and it's like hissing in her face or whatever, but it's
And
a
you've
good
done
like
something like,
The face hugger that just crawls out as well. It's like, oh, they're still around.
I was
Yeah,
like, yeah,
that was
so many times I
I
just rolled. I was like, for fuck's sake, catch a break. It was like when
yeah.
Kay was escaping and she fell off that cliff, like when she jumped
Oh
out, and I was
yeah,
like,
shit. But I like this because I feel like every other film, as we mentioned before, when the xenomorph turns up, the facehuggers just go away. We don't see them again.
Yeah.
It's a xenomorph now, and I guess that doesn't really make sense because even the xenomorph and the facehugger don't see each other as a threat in any
you're gonna
way.
say they don't see
So
eye to eye.
they should still be
Yeah,
away.
it's like they're
I hate
battling for
you.
the host. It's like
But
I want to kill this to kill it, and it's like
yeah,
the fake goes, no, I need to I need to breed this this
I need
host.
to get me long tube down his throat. And in this moment, when the gravity comes back on, is when the lift is like gonna fall down. Andy like grabs it to stop it like falling down, and then at this moment, even more xenomorphs are coming up from the bottom of the elevator shaft.
Yeah, they're like jolting the way up, like little little gangsters
Um,
on the way up.
but Andy can't keep holding on to the lift.
Just
Lets it
lozes it
go.
down at him. Yeah.
Loses it down at him. Luckily, I kind of thought it killed all the xenomorphs there, and then there was the sneaky one had managed to like dodge
Yeah,
it.
just
Just
because
out
it
of-
crawls back around. Still
Yeah.
here.
Oh yeah, you think
He'd
you
have
got
like
me, do you?
he'd seen them get through that like maze of acid, and so it understands what quick time events are. So it had one of its own in the game. It was like looked, press B.
Exactly.
Um,
And then in this moment where we think Rain is finally about to get got by the
either by a
xenomorph.
face hugger or a xenomorph, because there's a face hugger coming out as well.
Oh yeah, it's like a
Um,
combo deal. Suddenly, the facehugger gets blasted, and we see Andy falling down falling down the shaft, feet first, surfing on a xenomorph, blasting it in the face with a pulse rifle, and then, of course, as we previously mentioned, he utters the famous Ripley line, "Get away from her, you." And are we supposed to believe that he stumbles on the word, or that he's not sure he should say the word?
I think
It's
he's
a weird
just
one, isn't it?
stumbling, or like he seemed very confused what he was saying. It was
He's
like he
just
didn't
fallen
know
a
what
long
he was
way.
saying.
Get away from her, you bitch. He
Slightly,
says it.
no.
He says it with a question mark, as if he's like, I don't
Like he's
actually know if I
reciting
heard it.
words he's heard before that he doesn't understand or something
Yeah.
like that.
That's the thing. Did we
We
hear
don't know
anyone
what
else
the
previously
political
say?
correctness range
He's not
is
allowed to say that.
in this distant future. Can I say bitch? Is that
Maybe he's
Again.
thinking, oh, is the module still inside of me, the other one?
Stopping me say it? Yeah.
it's
There should have been.
installed a
There should
cool
have been a
dude
moment.
module?
There should have been a moment earlier where somebody called someone a bitch. Maybe someone called Rain a bitch, and he was like, "Don't call her that," or something like that. Don't be so rude.
I would
But
only call
but
the
he stored
worst
it.
monster I'd ever met
Yeah.
a bitch. That's the only circumstance I would save
And if
that
he
for.
pulled it out later on, it would have made more sense. But yeah, there we go. We see obviously Kay get back to the ship, and this is when she
And
just
Rook's
goes,
been saying, "Go on, press the autopilot button. I'll take care of it all from here." She's like,
"Yeah,
"No,
what's Rook
stop
doing? What's he
asking."
playing at?"
Well,
Cheeky
they've
little.
asked him, said, "Oh, Rook, will you do it?" I'm sorry, I'll have to deny your petition.
He says they're
And that-
dead. Does he say they're dead?
Yes,
He
they died actually.
he says they're dead. Awkward when they turn up in the ship not long after, and he goes, "All right, I'm glad you're all right." Don't say that. Who do you think you are? How dare you? But yeah, so she injects herself, doesn't she? Is it now she injects herself?
It was
No, she did it
before.
on the lift on the way up.
That's right. You're right. Yeah, sorry.
As soon as they'd left her alone for a second, she was like, "Oh, I do feel a bit poorly."
Have a little go on that. I've left my vape in the same room as you. Don't anyone have a go on it. Don't everyone have a blast on that watermelon flavored vape. And as soon as they leave,
It's like sometimes
flavour
when
there.
it's like sometimes when Karen's got a bit of a cold, she's like, "Oh, do us a lemsip, will you? Do her a lemsip," and I go, "I feel a bit ropey. Do I need? I don't
But
need a lemsip."
basically, if you are fully healthy and you have a lemsip, it just levels you up.
Yeah,
You're even better. You're like on top of the world. You're
yeah.
like,
Sometimes when I'm making Karen a lemsip, naturally when you pour in, this is my Prometheus story. Sometimes just when you pour in the powder into the
Oh.
cup to make the mug, obviously there is a little bit of splashback on there, so some of the dust inevitably goes into the air. And I'm like the Rock walking past a thing where you can something that you can smell weed. I'm like,
if you smell,
if I smell
It's
a slight
Lemsip.
bit of paracetamol and decongestant, and then I'm like, yes, got it
There
right
we
in there.
go.
And that's what she does. The second she's left alone, she's like, I mean, I might not die of this injury, but I could feel better. So she puts some Prometheus in her and thinks nothing more of it. The team get out, they put on the autopilot, and then Rook didn't think of this. As soon as they're away, and the plan is that they are going to go back to the planet and drop off the Prometheus with the company. And then she goes, "Sucked in, mate. There's a button here that just turns off your autopilot."
Oh
Off.
yeah, turns them off, and then we see it. Is this when we see the ship basically get destroyed? And what you mentioned before, Terrelle, about like the amazing cinematography of like the space, like the rings when we see them being destroyed by when you see it destroying the ship and the other ship flying away, like that is
It's
amazing.
just breathtaking, and in IMAX as well. It just
Stunning.
Yeah,
one
of
of those
course.
things where I was like, that is an IMAX. That's like Christopher Nolan would be proud of that sequence.
Yeah,
like, just the way it looked and the scale.
Right.
And another thing I like is how it portrayed space quite accurately in terms of sound. Because I think that
Mm.
was so effective as well, where the sound drops out in certain moments and you're just watching the images.
Yeah. Well, if you
Like
remember
muffled.
the first probably like 30 seconds of this, sometimes you start watching a film and it's like very quiet and
Yeah.
you're almost like, and you almost get worried. You're like, I hope they've switched the sound on
It's like,
because,
oh,
Yeah. It's just dead quiet. It's like a test.
yeah,
It's like, I think the second time I watched it, I heard some people crunching popcorn. The first time
yeah,
it was, could hear a
dead
pin drop and
silent.
everyone was just complete
And
silence.
something like
And
beeped into life, didn't it? That was when I knew
yeah.
that.
yeah.
Um, so
So
yeah, and so
the
we see
station's
Ash,
getting the
Ash
station's
like,
getting sanded up.
yeah,
Ash goes, "Oh bloody!" She goes, "Oh bother," or something along those lines.
yeah. He's done for. And there at the end of every Alien film, as we always think, that's got to be the end, isn't it? They've escaped. There's definitely no chance that there's anything alien or alien offspring like
How would
left
you have
on this
felt if it had
ship.
ended here, you two?
I actually thought that's what it was going to do. Like, it caught me off guard, and I don't know how, but I thought they were setting that Prometheus part up for a sequel.
Yeah, same.
I thought, oh, we're going to see what happens to the pregnant woman in a sequel, or that's going to be like resolved in a sequel, or something like that. And
Mm.
She's going to be frozen, so like they'll come out, and then we'll see what Prometheus has
But
done
this is
to a
what
baby
I
later.
was still locked into my Alien Queen theory, where I thought they would land. It would link to the events of Aliens. We'd land on the Aliens planet, LV two.
Oh
What's
yeah,
it called?
maybe it would have just gone. Oh, so this planet, what's it called? It's got a
It was the
name,
nearest one.
Varga, and then say,
Yeah.
oh,
Also known
AKA
as, yeah.
LV
I was
ah,
st-
see, that
forty-six.
would have
I
been, yeah,
I was still locked into that,
interesting.
mainly because it was the first theory I had. So, when you think of a theory and you go, right, that's it, I'm all in. No,
Yeah,
I'm locked in. I'm
putting my
locked
chips
in.
down.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you would have
If,
seen those two, Andy and Rain, step out, and then they'll have let their friend out, and she would have just exploded out of that thing, a fully
yeah.
formed alien queen.
So if the Ash moment was something that was gonna make fans probably split their opinion, this even more so, I guess, because it is obviously a throwback or a throw forwards to Alien Resurrection, but also it links to Prometheus and the engineers as well. And yeah, in terms of the life cycle, she's just about to get in bed. Rain, she's ready for bed. Puts
She's plugged Andy in,
plugged
put
Andy in, yeah.
put him on his
He's
charging pot, said, "All right, this will keep you going until we get up in 9 years or whatever." And then, you just think one more thing. There's just one little alarm going off. Just like, probably the door's not quite shut right. And then she looks at it, goes, "Oh no, something's wrong with this." And the second she gets her out, Kay's at full term pregnancy.
oh god, yeah. But again, this was similar to Prometheus in a way, because obviously with Elizabeth Shaw, this kind of happened to her.
I feel like that
With
was the
that,
better scene as well. I feel like Prometheus
yeah,
did the pregnancy thing more effectively. It was more
definitely.
like a horrific scene to witness. Where I think this one was very quick, but I do like that it wasn't like the C-section. This was a proper birth, like
Mm.
and like a violent one, and yeah, that egg cocoon like thing coming out.
What did
Uh,
you think as soon as you could see like a kind of a human face immediately
See, that's
there?
the moment that like I think the moment that alarm went off, I was like, I think I just snapped into what I thought it was because I kept hearing dead space, dead space. I think I started watching this film thinking there's a human
Yeah,
xenomorph thing because of dead space. I kept hearing dead space, and as soon as that thing went off, I was like, all right, that they're doing it. But
yeah,
then that moment where you see the face, I think that's one of those moments where there's just such a good audience reaction moment. Like anytime you see it, it's like you're waiting for that moment to hear how the audience reacted. Like yesterday when
yeah,
I
yeah,
watched it,
yeah,
hear it in the audience where people are like, "Oh God," like kind of
yeah.
thing. And it was like, "Oh, they're actually going there." And then from that point on, I feel like I was on cloud nine with the whole scene. I was like, I think I was just so
Oh,
like I
right.
can
Okay, so
understand
you
to
were
the
really, really
Really
into
yeah,
it.
positive.
I could understand why people don't like it because of the resurrection side of it. But I think the reason why I like it so much is because of what it's doing, but also because for me, I'm like, this is Dead Space. It's Dead Space. It's a
Yeah.
necromorph. It's a
So it's like it's part xenomorph, part engineer, part human. It's like it's got the engineer face, the black
yeah.
eyes, the kind of same facial expressions, and I guess
It's got
that's
like the
the DNA of
chrome
the
teeth of the alien.
Yeah.
It's got the-
yeah,
Chrome teeth of an alien.
and the little outy mouth. That's the
Yeah.
technical
But with
term.
like a little Blade 2 sucker tongue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Matt got
obviously when it first thing we see it is little baby. So a little acid-filled egg opens, little
yeah,
baby's in there.
dangerous.
Yeah, and it starts melting through to the floor to the cargo bay straight away. I tell you what, though, obviously these guys haven't had the same upbringing we have. I've seen too many Alien movies. I'd have smashed that little baby with a rock faster than Sydney Sweeney in the end of Immaculate. An absolute.
I know what you mean.
I'd have been.
Immediately stomp.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
if
Dead Space trained me
Dead
very well,
Space,
stomping the shit out of everything. I'd have been right. Get in the bin before you get time to immediately
Yeah.
grow, because literally by the
30
time,
seconds later.
yeah, by the time she's got
Yeah.
downstairs, effectively, it's already a big 7'2" bloke. She looks around in the cargo bay. Meanwhile, the 7'2" giant man goes like, "Shh, be very, very quiet." He goes back up to the top, finds his birth mother, and then this was kind of an opposite, because I thought there was going to be like the mix of humanity and alien in there. I thought it was going to be an alien resurrection where there was the affection for the maternal mother, like
Oh,
the
yeah.
human alien hybrid in Alien Resurrection. But no,
Yeah.
in this case, the creature, the hybrid, I believe it's called, slurps his mum dry like a Capri Sun.
Offspring. Is that what we call it? Do you know what though? Sorry, Terrell, you gone.
I was going to quickly say the interesting thing I noticed the second time is halfway through the film when they walk through the ship and you get that voiceover about Romulus and Remus. There's an image, like a mural that they show,
Yeah.
and there's an image of like what looks to be a baby, almost in that exact same position with like a mother or a woman. And
Okay.
I've been trying to work out what the film's trying to say, or with its like religious connections or ancient history connections. I don't really work it out, but I think that offspring is supposed to symbolize the other
Yeah.
brother.
I did
Okay.
But I
puzzle.
don't know what that means.
I
And
need to
what
learn
they're-
my Romulus and Remus. I know they're
Yeah,
the founders of Rome, and I know they're meant to have been breastfed by a wolf. What you needed was a wolf here
yeah,
to.
and one of them kills the other. But I don't know who Romulus is supposed to be in this framework if you're to believe Remus is the offspring. But the same pose that's shown on that mural is basically what he's doing to the.
When he's slurped his mum dry.
Yeah.
There was the moment where it's kind of like crawl when you kind of first got a good look at it, where it was kind of crawling through, and it was like it was shrouded in darkness, but then there was like a flash, and you kind of saw its face.
Yeah.
That was I got a very visceral reaction where I was like, "What the? Like, it's
But
it's bigger than a xenomorph as well, right? It's
Yeah.
bigger than a xenomorph. It's like even at
that's
full
what
when
I
it's
wanted.
stood full up.
Where I missed opportunity to have one of those versus a xenomorph. Could have had an alien on there, and he could have twisted its head off or done a big
Yeah.
clap round
the
its ears
power.
like a tango advert and smashed its head. Um,
Oh man.
so it drinks its mom dry.
And look,
Rain is able to
unfor
freeze it a little bit.
unfortunately, it is kind of like standard. When this big reveal happens and the big final battle happens, there's only one place for it to go. The hero needs to eject it into space. Essentially, that's the
With a
only
boss
way.
fight.
With a boss fight, yeah, that's the only way it can happen.
You must pull all four of these levers to win.
Yeah. So initially, I thought
Although
she was
with
gonna
what-
like because
with
it's like a
with what we
coal thing or
know,
something, isn't it? Sorry, go on.
with what we know now, though, it's probably still alive.
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah,
just crystallized
exactly.
in space.
Oh no,
Floating
that's
around-
okay. We
floating around like-
we know because it gets sanded, doesn't he? So that's okay.
Oh,
Goes
true.
in. Yeah. So in this occasion, unless you can survive being grated like cheese,
Oh yeah.
yeah. Otherwise, I thought the exact same there, Terrelle, as he was going down there, because she pulls three of the four levers, but then you know, it's like any boss. Like the last hit's going to be the hardest. It knocks her off. She's put a spacesuit on, and it's got her captured. Unfortunately, it hasn't remembered that there's a lovely Kinder Surprise full of acid on the floor. So she just boots the egg over,
Oh
It
yeah.
melts the way through, and they both get sucked out into space. She's on a string. The
I
Getting me a
like
little jump scare this bit when it came out and it was in her
yeah.
face.
This is, I mean, talking about gravity, this is very much like gravity, isn't it? When she was like hanging on to the cord, and I like the suit she was in as well. It's kind of like a Weyland-Yutani, not like a space, well, obviously a space suit, but not like one for space travel, one for whatever that ship did, like I guess gathering coal or picking things up and stuff. It was almost like a steampunk version of a spacesuit, wasn't it?
And it's
Yeah.
heated as well, right? Because it stops her from getting frozen. So it's a
Oh, lovely.
comfies.
He, she's in her jogging bottoms and hoodie. Um, Yeah, and I mean, there's only there's really only one direction for it to go, which is she's got to kill it, and she does manage to do that. But it doesn't. It almost left me wanting more in a way, where I'm just like, it was such a monstrosity that I wanted to find out more. I'm fascinated about like what it should be. I guess like the monstrosity of the Alien Resurrection version is that it's like 90% xenomorph, 10% human. There's
I
just
liked that one because this one feels it's very disturbing. It's very
it
uncanny
laughs.
for
Does
having
it laugh?
human
It
like
laughs, doesn't it?
yeah, it's horrible. It's got
No.
very human like qualities where it's thing. Whereas I find the xenomorph hybrid in Alien Resurrection, it's quite sad when it
Yeah.
dies.
And it literally gets sucked through a tiny, tiny little hole.
Yeah.
What this one reminds me of is, did you both play the remake of Dead Space?
I've
Yeah,
not played the remake.
So what they
did the
did
remake.
with that first scene, it's a very similar scene, but I don't know if you remember towards the beginning of the game when I think it's the first time you see a xenomorph transform and it drops into the vent in that room and you go into the room. Actually, no, I think in the original version it drops into this room and you're watching it
Attack
take
of
a
Guy, is
body,
that right? Yeah.
transform, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
breaks out the
No.
glass and fights you.
Hmm.
In the remake, they changed it where you're in the room and it like
Yeah.
drops on you, and
Yeah.
no, actually no, it drops in the room, transforms right in front of you, and then like slowly crawls onto your body
Yeah.
and like stands up, and it reminded me of that so much. And saw someone post a photo of it online yesterday, and it is when I look at the image, I'm like, that is so close to that. It just seems like a spitting image of the two things, and I think that's why I was so. I think it's rare for me to really like be genuinely shocked by something when I'm watching like a horror film in that type of way. Like you said, like the visceral reaction,
Mm.
where like you could feel in the cinema that everyone's like, "What is going on?" And then when you get that baby face reveal, it's like, "Oh no." And then when you see it, it's like, ugh. And then throughout the
Yeah.
whole scene, you're trying to process what is this thing, and you're trying to like every glimpse, you're like trying to analyze every
We
detail of it, and you're like, that looks like
we
an
get a
engineer.
close up
Like,
of its back as well. Like its back, it's got those kind of like
The
tubes,
alien
which are like
tubes.
the
yeah,
alien
Yeah.
tubes, but they just look. It
weird.
does look like a monstrosity, like a abomination,
Yeah.
essentially.
And it's
Like
got a horrible
it
bun
shouldn't
tail.
be. Oh yeah, and its tail like grows as well. Yeah.
Doesn't it grow a tail from drinking its mom?
Yeah.
Drinking his mom up. He's like, right, I've got the energy to grow a tail now.
Yeah, you complaining about how does it grow when it goes into the cocoon? That's how.
Need some mums.
It
Drinking his
reminded me of
mum.
that creature from Splice as well. It looked like that. The
Yeah,
tail.
very
Yeah,
Tail
splice.
made me think of that.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was freaky as well, especially when someone gets it on with it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Seduces Adrian Brody.
yeah. Oh God, you know what? You are a terrifying creature, but I quite fancy you. And I guess a little bit like I mentioned the neomorph. I guess there's kind of like apart from the head, essentially, but body wise, it kind of reminded me of the neomorph in a way. Um, okay, but yeah, she does manage to get the better of it, thank God.
She goes,
Um,
get in this asteroid belt, mate.
yeah. She puts Andy in a chamber. Obviously, Andy is injured as well. I forgot to mention that Andy got another backhand across the face. And
It
it's
slits
pretty
his
much.
throat, doesn't it?
Oh shit! Did it?
It
Oh
slits his
God.
throat.
Something, yeah. He's like leaking a lot of fluid.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. He's leaking a lot of milky fluid. And so she puts him in a chamber and says,
Says, I'll take you straight to the dairy.
"I'll, I'll take you straight to the dairy. You'll be fine." And she does the standard thing you got to do: record a log saying, "This is whoever. I'm the last survivor of this." Um, Sending yourself off into space, not knowing if you're going to be picked up or not, but that means if there's a sequel, great. If there's not, she's still floating out there somewhere. We can come back to it in like 50 years again
You
and
know what the
pick it up.
company's like, what you'd want to record then is that there's a yeah, after nothing eventful happened to me, I get into this space pod knowing that everything is absolutely fine and no question should be asked of me when I'm thawed out of my destination. I'll just be frozen with my non-robot brother going to the planet where robots are
just
forbidden.
just
No
don't do what
questions to
happened.
answer.
Don't do an Alien Free and just kill everybody off. Waking up. Oh, all your favorite characters have all survived. Nope, they're all dead.
They're going to
Even
drown. They're
even
going
the
to have
little girl.
drowned, and
Yeah.
then we're going to do a disturbing autopsy of the little girl in the director in the
Oh yeah,
assembly cut.
God.
Sorry, not the director's cut.
Another deep cut. Right. Okay. So that is it. That is Alien Romulus.
That is Alien Romulus.
There's no post-credit scene where Samuel Jackson turns up and says, "I'm putting together a team of the Xenomorph, the Offspring, the Engineer, the Predator, and you, Andy, if you want to get involved." Not you, Andy. I mean,
when you first said that, I was like, the Xenomorph and the band, The Offspring.
I know. So yeah, that would be a weird combination. Okay. Should we rate this film then? A to F?
Let's rate this film.
Let's let Terrelle go first
Yeah,
because
Terrell, you go.
he's already made the big statement
I,
that this is number two.
are you including A pluses?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
put A plus if you're so
I'll say
inclined.
A.
Minuses, A
Solid
to
A.
F.
'Cause I think my only big flaw is just the Rook stuff. And I don't
Yeah.
even really, even watching it the second time, it's like I can kind of look beyond it. I just think it was such an unnecessary thing to do that you just did not need to do that. And I think that is the key thing that's upsetting a lot of people about it who have real like negative thoughts about the film as a whole. I think if you remove that, because I think it's one of those things where them doing that, and I don't know how they could not think this would happen. Even if the visual effects were good, it just rips you out of the film for a second. You know, because I remember I was thinking when I saw it, I was like, "All right, they've done that." And then for half a second, I was like, "Wait, isn't he dead?" I'm sure the actor's passed away. So then I'm trying to think that, and it's like you should be focused on the film in that moment, whereas you're focused on
Yeah.
the ethical situation of what's going on, the visual effects, and but aside from that, I think I loved it. It didn't all the way live up to the premise of a Fede Alvarez Alien film because I think the violence part and the graphicness is missing, but I think it still has so much in there that I can like excuse that as well. And like and the second time, like I said, I think all of it worked so well. Even though I knew everything that was happening, it was still very enjoyable. I was still engaged. I thought the pacing's really good because I didn't realize until I searched it up after that it's like 2 hours. I thought it was like 140 because I felt the film just moves like really quick. So yeah, I really like it, and I yesterday after seeing it the second time, I was like, I'm pretty certain, like it's definite top three for me. And then it was literally this morning, and I was thinking about it. I'm like, this too, like, and yeah, I love Aliens, and Aliens is still a classic, but I think that's the one that slips down underneath it for me. But and I think the same thing that happened with the Evil Dead remake might happen with this for me, where I loved the original Evil Dead. That was like my favorite one when I first been introduced to it. And then when I saw the remake, that I loved it, and that gradually overtook that as my favorite one in the franchise. And I don't think this one would be my favorite one in the Alien franchise, but I think that's why it's gone so high, is I've got that kind of similar reaction where it's like, oh, this is fresh and exciting for me. And it's got an edge to it that's slightly different. And then for a big factor of it for me is the Dead Space stuff. Because I never thought Dead Space in a film would be worthwhile or would even work. And then what I've seen in this film, I'm like, oh, it could absolutely work. Like I think it could really work. And it may never happen, but I feel like this film's given me that in like a little small piece of it.
It's scratched that itch, the Dead Space
Yeah.
itch. I think I will go for an A minus. I mean, that could change. I would like to see it again. I think the chance to see it in IMAX, especially like some of the cinematography stuff, I think I need to take that up. Yeah, I think I agree with you. Like in terms of a Fede Alvarez film, I was maybe expecting something else. It subverted my expectations, definitely. There were definitely some things that I kind of expected, and it took it in different directions. So I appreciate that. Sure, some of the decisions are strange. Obviously what we talked about with Ian Holm, but also that final act, strange, but that doesn't mean bad. I'm not saying bad strange. I'm saying like it is weird. It's very strange. It's very body horror. It's very out there, almost like B movie in a way, with how mad it goes. But I
Jerry
think
Seinfeld
over,
one.
but I feel it's definitely like that. Where the bee ends up in a relationship with a human woman.
Imagine the offspring from
Ridiculous.
that, Ben.
I
Horrible.
I can imagine it. I want to see a horror movie of that. But yeah, I think I could go for A minus. I'm not gonna say it's number two in the Alien franchise. We do want to record an Alien franchise ranking episode, don't we, Andy?
We do.
Terrelle, you should definitely join us for that, so
Be
we
happy
can
to.
see
Yeah.
if you're gonna whack Alien
Yeah, I'll have one
Romulus at number
confirmed
two. Yeah,
total then.
I don't want to ruin that, but I think I would say like Aliens has always been my favorite. After watching Alien again, I think that's the purest version of this mythology.
I think it's a
And
perfect life form of a film.
currently, it's a perfect life form of a film. Currently, Romulus might sit just below Prometheus for me, just because I feel like Prometheus is uh such a long shot of a film. Like it's a real, it takes without even having Alien in the title, I think is incredible, and I do love that film. The connection for this one between Alien and Aliens, great. The connection to Prometheus, unexpected but welcomed. So I would just say an A minus currently. Andy.
I'm going to join you on an A minus, Ben. Many of the reasons both of you identified. I think it was an incredibly tense film, really well shot, like cinematically wonderful, great soundtrack, great creature effects. Um, the things that maybe brought it down a little bit and that may see it be reappraised as time goes on as well are the points you highlighted. So the how liberally Ian Holmes' image was used, and I know, I feel better about it having gone and read that, yeah, his family were actually on board with that. Like I said, I'm not here to be offended on their behalf, but creatively I find it quite difficult to get by Ian Malcolm style. Just because you can do something, I think sometimes you need to ask whether you should or not. And I think you could have delivered that a little more subtly. Um, have him
You
spend
say
more
Ian
time
Malcolm then?
as a voice. Yeah, from Jurassic Park.
Oh yeah, for on purpose? You
Yeah,
did.
I'm
All right.
quoting him, telling him that
Because
you don't have to do
because
things just
his
because you
name's
can do them.
Ian Holm. I thought you
Oh,
just got it. I
yeah.
thought you got
No,
it wrong. I feel
all
like Ian
all the
Malcolm.
all the advice from the different
I
Ians.
got you.
So
I got you.
what fictional Ian makes us wonder about what we should have done with the image of real Ian on this one. Like, could there have been a more subtle way there? Just to incorporate a good representation of his voice, maybe have just had a short image, a short music, because I think we are in an era where these things are used for big bangs and shocks, across all kinds of things which are generated for IP and franchises. Again, because companies are rotten, horrible scoundrels that want you to work in a mine forever, even after your death. We've seen them take a lot of criticism for them using other alternative actors when you could just pick someone that looks similar, or you could, respect the fact that that person has passed away and then use them in a subtle way. But this was a really intensive one, and ethically and some things I'm a little bit relieved based on the fact that his family were so heavily consulted. But creatively, as Terrelle said, like it did take me out of it during the film, thinking about that and the execution of that when I wanted to be stuck
Yeah.
into the film. And also the robots, you could have just had someone else. You could have made that connection with the naming convention or just being similar, because obviously years have passed between these movies, so you could have got someone who looks a bit like him and said, oh look, it's a similar line of robot. Or what, give the actor that plays Andy another one and say, oh, this is a science version of me, and have him play another
Yeah.
guy as well. Why not? He's certainly got the chops for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I liked everything that happened, and then I was really torn over the ending. Like I was excited to see them through it, and I was genuinely surprised with the incorporation of the Prometheus and the lore that goes around that. But equally, I would have happily let those things live in their own world and disappeared, and I would have been satisfied walking out of this movie if they'd gone to sleep when they went to sleep, and we had a tease for the end, maybe for something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall though, like you, Ben, I may change on this over time, and it may be a real Spider-Man No Way Home situation where I walk out so hyped and I'm like, yes, that was incredible. And then I'm like, oh, actually, maybe there are like in a couple of months' time, I've softened on it a bit. But for right now, A- all the way.
Yeah. So I think we were similar thoughts overall, but yeah, that was a deep dive. I mean, as you mentioned, Terrelle, talking about Evil Dead Rise for nearly 3 hours.
Yeah.
I think we've gone and done it again. Where can our listeners find more from you online? Where can our listeners find your
So
podcast?
I have a Twitter account for the podcast, which is Horrormania Hub. So just at Horrormania Hub. And then the podcast itself can be found, which is just called Horrormania, can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and any other like digital platform that does a podcast. And I'll probably end up shifting it to YouTube soon as well. But those are the two main places.
Sweet. Back to YouTube, where it all began for you, right?
Yeah. Should be I've
Awesome,
been
man.
for a long time wanting to find a way to get back on, but it's like that
Yeah.
type of thing where it's like I don't want to do it unless I'm fully committed to do it. But I feel like that time is nigh.
Time is now. There we go.
Yeah.
Well, Terrell,
we'll
it's been worth joining already. I've just subscribed as we chatted, so one new
Thank you.
subscriber.
We'll put links to all of that stuff in the show notes. Terrelle, thanks for joining us. Thanks everybody for listening. If you enjoyed the show, become a patron over at patreon.com/horror hangout. Thanks to all of our patrons over there. Thanks to Taj Easton for our theme music. Thanks to Acast for hosting the show. Please consider giving us a rating or review. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search Horror Hangout Podcast. You'll find us. And next week, as we mentioned, we're well, I say live. We're not live. We're recording live at Fright Fest 2024, and that episode will be out next week. Look for it. Hopefully, it will be just as exciting and just as chaotic as last year's episode, right?
Yeah, cannot wait to be out there in London, seeing some people live. Wonder who we'll meet. We'll be like war correspondents again. What new friends, what new enemies will we make? Let's find out this weekend.
What new friends, what new enemies? Hopefully, plenty of each. Well, there we go. Thanks again, Terrelle. See you again on the show. You're welcome. See you again on the show sometime soon. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye for now, everyone. And if you if you work for a horrible company, just stay out of space. Life's horrible enough, all right?
Definitely. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.